Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway for tonight's coverage of the Northwest Cup Series. Tonight, it's the Charlotte Oval 200, live on LSR TV, your home for sim racing. I'm Justin Prince alongside the booth. Tonight is Greg Rentz with Charles Wooden in the director's seat once more for tonight's action. 134 laps, 200 miles, all set to go, Greg, for what should be an entertaining race once more.
I'm looking forward to this one, Justin. This is going to be a very entertaining race. It's our only Northwest Racing Series race of the week, as the Truck Series is off this week. They have already visited Charlotte, so it's the Cup Cars' turn, and I'm very looking forward to this because the races on this similar layout that we've seen this year, Texas and Atlanta, both have been very entertaining races. And remember, Justin, both those two races this year had the same winner, Sean Brightsman, in the number 46. So could be another great show. 134 laps, the typical distance here for the mile and a halves for the 200-mile races. But it is going to be a very interesting race, and you can't get much closer than the top two are on the practice charts. It was a tie for the fastest spot in practice, Justin.
Yeah, indeed. That was just broken in the final tenth of a second, in fact, by about a couple 100ths of a second. Dan West Jr. was quickest in practice at 28.955. Chris White had that tie with West Jr. at 29 flat. Kevin Smith, John Umbacher, Devin West rounding out the top five there. But let's quickly touch upon, of course, the Detroit Automakers 200 last week. It was an entertaining one with a lot of strategy and intrigue, Greg, and also an upset winner. Bruce Lee Weaver coming away with the victory after 6 straight DNFs.
And it was strategy that got him there, Justin, because he stayed out as long as you physically could on a long green flag stretch to make that work. He was about half a lap shy of having to come to pit road, and the entire strategy going out the window. And he caught the caution at the perfect time where everyone who had already pitted needed to pit again to be able to hang with him. And he was able to stay up front. And then on the second green-white checkered, was able to outduel Seth Frazier for his, not only his first Cup Series win of the season, his first ever Northwest Racing Series victory. So it was a fantastic showing for Bruce Lee Weaver. He is hoping, no doubt, that he can follow suit here tonight at Charlotte and go back-to-back for win number 2 on the season, but he's got his work cut out for him tonight.
Indeed, he's just outside the top 10 in total final practice charts for tonight. Currently, race meetings underway. Let's talk about the point standings entering this evening's race. Dan West Jr. is on top of the point standings by 47 points over Jeff Stabnow. Jeff Stabnow coming in with the new look tonight. Sean Brightsman in third, Christopher White in fourth, Stephen Paulson in fifth, with Seth Fraser in sixth. John Ottenbacher, Daryl Tedrick, Ricky Belger, Frank Harris round out the top 10, separated by just 120 points so far, Greg.
Yeah, and the guy who I know is going to be looking for some positive momentum in the points will be the guy you mentioned in sixth, Seth Frazier in the 32. Started the season off with 2 wins in the first 3 races and looked like he was going to be a threat for the championship. But luck just has not gone his way since those opening few weeks here, Justin. And he got back on track with a dominating performance at Michigan, led far and away the most laps. I think he led 89 laps, 87 laps, somewhere in that bracket of the 100 at Michigan last week. Came up a couple of spots short, though, as a duel with Bruce Lee Weaver. He caught the tail end of it and wound up falling off the podium on the final lap. But you knew he had to be happy getting some positive momentum going and coming into Charlotte at another style of racetrack that he has done good at this season. Going to be interesting to see how he does. So I'm keeping my eye on the 32 of Seth Frazier to see how he's able to respond to finally snapping that bad luck streak at Michigan last week.
Seth Frazier, 78 laps led out of 105 last week. Lee Weaver led 17, 4 for Dan West Jr., 1 for Devin West. We talked about a little bit about the racing this season so far at the Quad Oval mile and a half so far. Charlotte, of course, a different beast in that of when the new iRacing version of Charlotte came out a couple years ago, it brought a more rougher track surface that was more abrasive on the tires. The racing lines can also vary compared to what we've seen at Atlanta here, Greg, at this track.
Yeah, Atlanta and Charlotte, identical layouts, but Atlanta has that much older race surface than Charlotte. So we knew tire management was going to be key there. Charlotte is, like you mentioned, beginning to take some of those same characteristics. The pavement is getting older. I believe it's now closing in on 15, possibly more years old. So we're starting to see a lot of the same characteristics that we see at Atlanta at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So I'm expecting a very, very similar race to what we saw at Atlanta a few weeks ago. And I'm curious how these drivers are preparing. I'm wondering if any of them perhaps went back and saw what they did at Atlanta and what they might have done differently in that race to prepare for this race. A little bit of homework, perhaps.
Yeah, going to be intriguing to see how these drivers handle this race tonight. Qualifying still a couple minutes out as well. Let's take a moment to talk about the current weather conditions. Of course, under the lights tonight, similar to what we've seen with the Coca-Cola 300 for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series just last week, as well as for the real world Coca-Cola 600, which starts in the daytime, then heads to this current condition before heading fully underneath the lights tonight. Track temperature 76 degrees Fahrenheit, 74 degrees is the air temp. In sim day is May the 24th. In sim time has just passed 8:30 p.m. with winds currently gusting to the southwest about 3 miles an hour. Your thoughts on the conditions tonight?
I'm looking forward to it, Justin. We love these day into night races, and it was such a cool track temperature, 76 degrees. We're so used to the track temperature being up in the triple digits that this is going to make things a lot easier. There's going to be a lot more grip in the tires throughout the course of the run. So I'm very curious to see how these drivers react to it, because they are so used to the slippery surface being up in the triple digits that this is probably one of the coldest racing surfaces that they've been on all year long, which is going to tell in the race. As the race winds on, more and more grip is going to be in the tires than these drivers are used to. So a little bit of a curveball for these drivers, that they're used to racing around in the heat of the day on a very slippery, slick, almost dirt-like track surfaces, that here, as the day turns to night, it's going to cool off even more throughout the course of the day. It's going to be interesting to see how these drivers react to this.
Indeed. Qualifying has just opened up on the racetrack for tonight. We'll see how these drivers handle qualifying this evening. First driver out is James Thurston, driving the number 2 machine tonight for the GGG Motorsports Club. We'll see how qualifying goes tonight, and a few different approaches already being seen. Thurston electing to take a bit more time to get back up to speed before he goes full speed around this racetrack, Greg.
Yeah, we've seen this a little bit more and more throughout the season. Drivers using this warm-up lap to kind of take it slowly and build up a little bit more momentum and try to get going on that first lap, as Thurston takes the green flag to begin his lap. So Thurston sporting a new look, by the way, in the number 2. Replaced the orange with yellow on his number 2 Chevy Camaro. So I almost said Corvette. That'd be a little bit of an advantage, I think, for the Chevy camp, as opposed to the Ford and Toyota entries. But Thurston taking a little bit of that slow approach to begin his lap, crossing the strike, and he will set the bar for the first qualifying lap, 29.258, the lap that Thurston lays down. So Justin, the bar has been set as the next few drivers come in, including Bruce Lee Weaver, last week's winner, sitting in second, just 4 1/1000ths off of James Thurston.
Lots of drivers coming around the racetrack, about 10 or so currently on circuit. Overall today, current entry list is around 26 drivers for this evening's running of the Charlotte Oval 200. Standing by as well, joining us from the pit road, one of the most noteworthy voices in all of NASCAR for those who listen to PRL. It is Wesley Outland, one of the announcers here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Wesley, your thoughts on what we expect to see tonight?
Pit road should be very, very interesting between a green flag scenario lap of 45 to 55 laps in a green flag run. The number one thing is going to be, will we see a scenario of drivers coming to the pits and taking on tires and fuel in the early going if we have a spill of cautions? It's going to be very interesting to see how this whole transition starts out. Sometimes we see races here in Charlotte where it's a wreck fest. Other times we see very long green flag runs and a cycle of green flag pit stops. That big question mark remains. What will it be here today at Charlotte Motor Speedway? I'll cover all the action when the cars roar down on the pit road.
Yes, indeed. Glad to have you along with us tonight, especially your more than 20 years of experience in motorsports broadcasting. Glad to have the opportunity to work with you tonight. Right now, these drivers making their way around the racetrack. About 10 total drivers have set qualifying times. Autumn Bunker has set the bar at the moment, but the 29th flat, James Thurston in second, Vining, Weaver, Nichols round out the top 5. Dan West Jr., though, about to set his first lap around the track. At the stripe, about 182 miles an hour, a 29.1. This may be quick for the second time around.
I believe that's the fastest first lap of the session so far, Justin, as John Ottbacher currently on top at a 29.046. James Thurston sitting second, 29.078. But Dan West Jr., I believe, just went the fastest first lap of the session thus far. His son Devin currently out there as well. He is, well, as I say that, just fell to 8th at a 29.235. But here comes Father Dan to the stripe, and ding ding, 29.007. Dan West Jr., top of the charts, and we know just how strong Dan West Jr. is, not just in the Cup Series but the Truck Series as well. Dan West Jr. always a threat here in the Northwest Racing Series.
Absolutely. 29 flat, and that was without draft, mind you, as well. Many others are still waiting to come out of the racetrack. Others, like Sean Breitzman, had a bit of a scramble to get into the session. You can see why as well, driving a Camaro instead of a Toyota Camry tonight.
Yeah, interesting little bit of a switch up there, Justin, and not the first manufacturer shift we've seen this season, so we will definitely be keeping our eyes on that throughout the course of the day and see how the manufacturer shift works out for him. I almost said switch.
Apologies for the language there as Seth Frazier makes his way around the racetrack in the 32. 29.217 was his fastest practice lap. But for the Menards machine, we'll see how he is this time, a 29.296. Currently 17th, but as we've seen so far, Greg, second lap has been the quickest lap each and every time for these competitors.
And that seems to be a common trend with this aero package, Justin, because the aero package, they're so aero sensitive that it's almost like restrictor plate racing nowadays. It takes them about a lap to get up to full speed with the aero sensitivity here. So the first lap seems to always be the fastest, or the second lap seems to be the fastest through the course of the day. So it'll be definitely interesting to see Dan Lowther in third at a 29.058, and he has really been stepping up lately in the new number 63, as he is back to his actual racing number that he races at Meridian Speedway in Meridian, Idaho. So Dan Lowther with a good qualifying effort tonight, as last few cars getting set to take time. And Justin, one guy that was definitely hoping for more, unfortunately missed practice. The 64 of Brock Denny, last week's pole sitter at Michigan, 22nd on the chart, 29.389.
Yeah, unfortunate qualifying session for him. Had a 4 on his first time, but another new look tonight goes to Jeff Stabnow. Made his debut of this black, chrome, and red look for the Truck Series. Brings that to the Cup Series tonight. Set the quickest first lap out of anybody. Has to lift hard off the throttle in the second time around. Had a 29 flat last time. Way off the gas of the stripe this time. Doesn't count. That could have been a pole time if he didn't struggle in 3 and 4 there.
I think that was going to be a pole time, Justin. So that's a tough one for Jeff Stabnow, but he's still second on the charts. He's the only driver to go a 29.0 on the first lap. So Jeff Stabnow, a very, very fast Walls Beard Co. Chevy tonight, so we will definitely have to keep our eyes on the new look 24 throughout the course of the race. Still chasing Dan West Jr. right now, as the last couple of cars are getting set to go. Actually, the only car that has not yet taken time is the 53 of Carl Burke. So 25 of 26 cars that are entered tonight have taken a qualifying lap, Justin. So as we just wait perhaps for either qualifying to wind out or Carl Burke to take his time, I want to talk about a guy who once again qualified in the middle of the pack, right around where we expect him to qualify, but we know is going to be up in the mix at the end. Sean Breitzman is in a 3-way tie, I just noticed, for 15th position. Stephen O'Hare, BJ Titter, Sean Breitzman, all 29.252 second laps. Breitzman, the 46, the winner of the previous 2 races at a track of this format, Texas and Atlanta. 17th on the charts right now, but you know, if an opportunity arises for Sean Brightsman to try some strategy, he will be right there.
You can also see Stabnow practicing his pit entry at the moment on your screen. The reason, too, he had to back off on that final lap was you seen it on the onboard about a minute or so before the point made by Greg that he did have damage on the right front fender on that car. You see it right there where one of the aero lifts are on the hood. That, in turn, meant he could not complete the second lap. If you touch any of the walls or have any incident points during a qualifying lap, that lap is voided. That means Stabnow could not put in a second qualifying time. Qualifying is over. It's time to find out how we'll start for tonight's action of the Northwest Cup Series, live from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's Dan West Jr. on the pole tonight with the 29.007, with Jeff Stabnow 3/1000 of a second off the pole in second. John Onenbacher, one of the quickest cars in practice, qualified in third, with Dan Lowther in fourth spot. Chris White and Bill Ross Jr. start fifth and sixth, with row featuring Kevin Smith and James Thurston. James Vining will look to try and keep the cat off his lap tonight. He'll start in ninth, with Bruce Weaver rounding out the top 10, Greg.
Gary Nichols, with one of his best qualifying efforts of the year, rolls off 11th, 29.171. To his outside will be Ricky Bozer, who is making limited starts this season, but has been impressive in the number 42. Devin West, always a threat, will qualify in the 13th position. To his outside will be Corey Walters, who is looking for some momentum to be built up. Texas truck winner Stephen O'Hare, one of 3 drivers to go with the 29.252 here on the charts today. To his outside will be BJ Tidrick, who almost picked up a strategy win a couple of weeks ago at Kansas before a late race accident took him out of the mix there. Sean Brightsman, the 46, always a threat in this one. The only 3-time winner in the Cup Series this season, rolls off 17th. To his outside, Seth Frazier, who led so much of the Michigan race last week before losing out in the duel to the checkered, with Frank Harris and Brett Johnson finishing up the top 20.
Darrell Tedrick starts in 21st. Brock Denny back in 22nd spot today in the 64. Roy Grande starts in 23rd with a brand new number 18. Adam Chisholm starts in 24th. Last qualifier is Stephen Paulison, and Carl Burke did not put in a qualifying time. He'll start 26. 2, make it 3, make it 4. And if longest line penalties as well as given tonight, Carl Burke, Brett Johnson, Frank Harris, Bruce Lee Weaver have all been sent to the back of the field for tonight's race. Now, tonight sees us at Charlotte Motor Speedway, America's home for racing. 1.5 miles is the circuit's distance, 2.4 kilometers, 4 turns, 24 degrees of banking rather in the turns, 5 degrees of banking down the straightaways for what should be an entertaining one tonight from Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll see how these drivers handle this race tonight and how they plan their strategies out here, especially with the fuel numbers that Wesley brought up, Greg.
Yeah, strategy going to be key, and one guy we know is not afraid to mess around with strategy is the 46 of Sean Brightsman. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone else perhaps is caught on to Brightsman using all those different strategies to get himself in position. And I'm curious, the more and more we go, the more and more we'll start seeing drivers begin to take a few more risks as they continue to work out for Brightsman, as the field is in the hands of Dan West Jr. as they come down the backstretch, getting set to go into turn number 3. Going to be interesting here for 134 laps and 2 very fast Chevy Camaros on the pole.
See how things go today. Dan West Jr. with his 3rd pole of the season. That is the season and series high so far in 2020. Jeff Stabnow, the only other driver coming into today with 2 poles, starts alongside him. Off goes the pace car. Barney the flagman in control of the field. West Jr. waits for it at the stand. Into the restart zone they go. Green flag is up. We're underway from Charlotte.
Good start on the outside by Stabnow to stick with Dan West Jr. there, and you know that's 2 of the best drivers in the series. Week in and week out, these 2 are always at the front, so you knew there was going to be a lot of respect there on the start, but also you knew Stabnow was not going to make it easy on Dan West Jr. And here we see it right off the gate in turn number 2, going down the backstretch. Stabnow to the inside of Dan West Jr. It's a side-by-side battle for the lead. West, though, with a good run on the outside.
West Jr. nearly hit the outside safer barrier, had to get really off the gas. Shuffle it up to second. Now side by side with Onenbacher coming to the stripe. Stabnow leads the first lap of the race. And now West Junior's lost that very important bottom, because if you lose that bottom line here, even on the short run, it can hurt your tire wear for the rest of the run here, Greg.
Yeah, it'll be definitely interesting, and you do not want to use up too much of your tires too early, because we have seen how drastic that can affect you in the later stages of the run, as Stabnow has moved into a good position right now, as he was a couple of tenths ahead of Dan West Jr. Here comes Ottenbacher trying to get a run on West Jr., but he lost draft with him, so he's got to suck to the back of Chris White in the number 83 for third and fourth. Bill Ross Jr. rounding out the top 5 as they snake their way into turn number 3. Single file for the most part. It's a way back to our first side-by-side battle.
First side-by-side battle is actually for P10. That's where Ricky Bozer's battling with Gary Nichols at the back end of the lead pack at the moment. That's also where Devin West has been already shuffled to in P12, mind you, just behind all of this. As talked about, a few new looks for tonight. Also a few new numbers, Greg. We were talking about this before today. Devin West shuffling over to number 5 for tonight's action. Roy Grande with a new number. And as you mentioned as well, Lowther with a new number, as West Jr. is your new leader.
Dan West Jr. got a good run there going into turn number 3. Stabnow's going to come back, get right up on the back bumper of Dan West Jr. in the 55. And he's going to poke about a car length ahead before Stabnow gets right back up on the bumper, taking a peek to the inside. We will see what Stabnow is able to do. West Jr. throws a little bit of a block there. Oh, they touch! And West is in the wall.
West Jr. hard into the outside wall, still crawling around, no caution flag. Lowther sliding just avoids the inside barriers, no caution as the caution comes out. O'Hare's in it, Nichols in it, multiple others sliding through the artificial turf.
Yeah, James Vining got loose there trying to gather it up after having to check up after what happened with Dan West Jr. And unfortunately, I believe it was Ricky Bozer was right there to his outside when Vining just overcorrected a smidge. I believe it was Bozer was right there, and you saw right there the bottleneck that happened, and all of a sudden we're under our first caution of the day after quite the start there.
Now we'll see what happened. First, let's take a look at the initial trigger of the caution. This is just after the contact for the race lead that really bottlenecked everybody up at the head of the field. You can see the smoke starting to pop out right about after the contact, and multiple cars ended up clipping the apron trying to avoid West Jr. and then colliding.
So definitely interesting stuff here at the start, as we have a couple takers on pit road, mostly to get some damage repaired. But Justin, you don't want to have to use your fast repair this early into the race, and unfortunately it looks like quite a few drivers are going to have to be in that position to take that fast repair here early.
Not how you want the battle for the lead to go in the early portion of the race. You can see again, Grande hits the back end of some of the cars trying to check up. That's one of the Tidricks had to slam the brakes and just avoided slamming into an additional 3+ more. Now we're down to the bottom of the racetrack, heading towards the start and finish line. So the whole field needed to be sorted out after all of this, as a couple drivers trying to keep up with the pace car. That's where some of the confusion is here. Some drivers did come down the pit lane, though, with all this confusion. Wesley, how do you sort this out from your angle here?
Vining, West, Johnson, Ullinson, Bozer, Harris, O'Hare, just some of the drivers that are in the back of the top 25 that came onto pit road. Of course, a number of those drivers also involved with that calamity, bringing out yellow flag number 1. They are allowed to use that one reset to try to get back fixed to full capacity at 100%, and they'll join the tail end of the field. But I believe right now everyone else in the top 10, the leaders for that matter, will stay behind the toe of the pace car. Again, as I stated, whenever we introduced things in the beginning during qualifying, it would all depend on if we'd have a lot of cautions or if people would stay out. As we just saw, the man in second, White Play Possum, looked like he was coming to the pits, but then he quickly swerved back into the second position behind Stabnow. Again, we're watching things here early, but a number of cars with damage in the early going at Charlotte.
Absolutely crazy start to this one as drivers line up, 1 to go for the restart. We're talking about this a little bit, Greg. Some new number changes. We're talking about it a little bit. Brock Denny in the 64. Grande with the new number in the 18. We also have drivers like Kevin Smith in the 00. A lot of new numbers and looks tonight.
Yeah, a lot of drivers actually were able to go back to their real life racing numbers in their real cars at their respective tracks. We talked about Dan Lowther in the 63. That's the number he races in his hobby stock at Meridian Speedway. Brock Denny races just about anything you can race at Montana Raceway Park in Kalispell, Montana. He drives number 64 on every single one of those cars. He's number 64 tonight. Devin West, he has made his name in the Northwest in car number 5, whether it's Legends or Dirt Modified, back in car number 5 tonight. Roy Grande in the 18. Not sure if he raced that number in the past or he's just a massive Kyle Busch fan, but either or, he's in a new number as well. And you mentioned the 00 of Kevin Smith. Believe this is his first start of the season in that number 00 with almost a Starcom Racing paint scheme on it. Granted, it's got Jags on the hood, so not quite, but it does have quite a few of Starcom vibes going on there,
especially color palette wise. But pace car is off, field and control stop now, green flags back out, we're underway. West Jr. in the few hours got a good launch. Stab now with a blistering launch, though already ahead by 4 or 5 car lanes.
That's what we were talking about, that Stabnow was able to avoid there on the initial start, as he was able to stick with Dan West Jr. Chris White was not able to stick with him, and that is what we've seen more and more of as the season goes on. That inside lane is just so strong, and once again we see it, the guy who starts inside lane row number 2, this case John Ottenbacher, able to take advantage of being right behind the leader and get up into second. So Ottenbacher, the LSRTB Chevy, right up there in second now. Got around Chris White, who's been running the Ford for the last couple of weeks and is having a good run today. Bill Ross Jr. in the number 17 had a good run going in the trucks at Michigan last night before taking flight late in the race. I believe he landed somewhere in Lake Erie, but he is back in the Cup car here tonight in 4th position. So having a good start to the day in the number 17 Camaro. To his on his back bumper, not quite back bumper, but in his mirror, is the 2 of James Thurston, who had such a good run going last week at Michigan, trying to get up and capitalize on another good qualifying effort, and looks to be doing so. Feeling the heat a little bit, though, from Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith in that 00 we talked about. Let's take a look what's happening about P12 on back, though. Bruce Weaver's in that spot. They've been shuffling around like crazy. It just spread a little bit between him, Gary Nichols, and Gerald Tidrick, but they've been battling 2-3-1 and having multiple checkouts amongst this grouping that's already broken up a second pack, essentially, from the top 8 on the track.
Well, we know Daryl Tidrick has no fear. It says right on the hood of his Toyota Camry that he has no fear, and he is showing it right now as he has worked from 21st to now take over the 13th position. But just like that, he is in trouble of losing it to the Duracell Menards Ford this week of Seth Frazier, and Frazier running, of course, the Ryan Blaney-esque paint schemes this season. But Edge Tidrick out to the line, and those two are working together. Those two are essentially teammates here this week, as Seth Frazier does a lot of road course racing with the Tidrick family. Daryl and older brother BJ, Seth Frazier, kind of the third amigo with them in their road course endeavors. So you know they're going to be working together in the Cup race, as well as Tidrick now getting back up on the bumper of Seth Frazier. James Vining coming back up in the 333 after being caught up in that initial incident. So far so good with the cat in the 333.
Yeah, that car's in 15th position, but we've been keeping an eye on this battle that's been going on for 3rd. That's where Ross Jr. is now up 3 positions from the drop of the green flag tonight. John Ottenbacher has shown some great pace, though, throughout this entire open practice, throughout qualifying, and now in this race. He's had a lot of bad luck, mind you, at some of the mile and a halves in 2020.
Yeah, Ottenbacher having I won't call it a breakout performance, but definitely one of the strongest performances of the year that the number 89 LSRTV Camaro has had, because he has been, like you said, struggling in the luck department in that green number 89, currently sitting in the 4th position, been up as high as 2nd after starting in the 3rd position. All in all, a great performance so far from John Ottenbacher. He was up to 2nd there on that initial restart. Chris White and Bill Ross Jr. both been able to get around him. Lap car going a lap down. That's BJ Tidrick in the numbers 72. Ottenbacher taking a little bit of a higher line there. I wonder if maybe he was being just a little extra cautious with the slower car to the inside there.
potentially, as we take a look once again at Brightsman, a plus 11 from him. And we talked about a little bit different car for tonight at this point, as we see him try and hold on at this point. But Wesley, one of the main things to think about tonight as well is the transition going from dusk into nighttime. What can you tell us about that, Wesley?
Yeah, sure, exactly. One of the cool things that happens every year, a matter of fact, coming up this Sunday, in reality, will be the 60th running of the Coca-Cola 600 from right here at America's Home for Racing, Charlotte Motor Speedway. But, of course, no fans allowed, but you'll be able to see it on Fox and hear it on the Performance Racing Network. But the transition from daytime into the nightfall, into night, you're going to see it here as well on this broadcast on LSR TV. The cars are going to change. The handling's going to change. Who can make the right setups when they come down to the pits is going to be crucial here as it gets down to the end of this race. We're only 18 laps in, but again, as we transition into nightfall, whose cars can be able to get the right setup to keep from getting tight, loose off the center, is going to be key to seeing who will be the winner at the end.
Absolutely. At this moment, though, Chris White has taken the race lead away from Jeff Stabnow, made the move down the back straightaway, and his Ford Mustang now looking to run away. One of the quickest cars on the track was a 10th.5 quicker than Jeff Stabnow last time by in the Runs on Freedom Amsoil car.
Remember, White was in one of those drivers who was tied for fastest time in practice at the 29 solid. It's bad luck if you say flat in racing, but doing a good job right now getting himself back up into the lead after starting in the 5th position. Now Bill Ross Jr. to the inside of Jeff Stabnow, but I believe the 17 may have caught the apron just a tick there, and that sent him up in turn number 1 and 2 as he had to chase it up the track. Well, one car swerving down there in the back of the pack. I believe that was the 32 of Seth Frazier that had to make a big save there off of turn number 2. Not sure what happened, but Frazier was looking at the inside wall and was able to make the save. But a little bit of some interesting stuff going on for the 32 right now, Justin.
Yeah, door-to-door contact down the back straightaway was the cause with the 00. Just barely avoided, smack into the left rear. And Smith, as a result, gave him the position you've seen. Keep in mind, though, Frazier also has some right left front bumper damage on the car. And as we've seen, depending on the significance of the damage, that can hurt you in straight line speed. Contact trouble. Caution's out. Devin West is in it. Burke gets turned.
West able to get going. That's in turn number 3 and 4. West able to get going.
And Vining is the man who turned around the 4. Vining tried to poke his nose underneath. Burke checked up, it looked like, on corner entry, and just came up and pushed up the track trying to avoid the apron.
Yeah, Burke had to check up there. Unfortunately, Vining had so much momentum going into that corner that just nowhere for the 333 to go there.
So caution flag is back out of the racetrack for the second time tonight, coming to the start of lap 23. And we'll see if anyone dives their way towards Leslie Outland down to the pit lane after a couple green flag runs. It looks like the answer is yes, Leslie. 7 number coming towards you to say hi.
Chris White, the leader, comes into pit road. So does Bill Ross Jr. Stabnow. Everybody, at least in the top 10, will come down to pit road and take on adjustments. Again, pit stop number 1 underway. First off, they cannot be speeding on pit road. Got to maintain their pit road speed as they go into their pit stalls, or they will suffer a penalty. White's in, Stabnow's in, Ottenbacher's in, Lowther is in, everybody on pit road. They're going to go quickly to the right side. They're going to get a splash of that Sunoco Racing fuel quickly, putting the tear off on the windshield. Crew will now rush over from the right side to the left side of the car. People are already dropping their jacks coming to pit road as Ross and White are first out of the pits. Let's see White. Looks like he'll be the first man off pit road, and the rest of the cavalry roars off of pit road to boot. One car is out of the race already. That is James Vining. I will try to see if I can grab a word with him, as he's our first driver out here at Charlotte.
We'll see if we can get a word with him indeed. We'll take a quick break, though. When we come back, more coverage of the Northwest Cup Series is up next from Charlotte.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
Welcome back, everyone, to Charlotte Motor Speedway for tonight's coverage of the Charlotte Oval 200 in the Northwest Cup Series. Justin Prince alongside Greg Wentz, Charles Rudin, and Director C. We also have Wesley Outland down on the pit lane from PRN, who's ready to call the Real World Coca-Cola 600 this upcoming weekend. It's been an interesting one so far here, Greg. Some aggression up at the front, a few lead changes, already a couple caution flags, but Chris White has been able to keep the cleanest car out of all of them so far.
Yeah, it's been definitely interesting at the front. Jeff Stabnow leading most of the early laps, but remember the contact with Dan West Jr. that brought out the first caution early on in this race. I believe it was, lap 4 that we saw that. Stabnow had led since that, but Chris White able to just pick and choose his time after falling to third on that restart. Got around Ottenbacher nice and patiently, waited, and then got up to Stabnow and got the spot. So Chris White having a very good performance here in that number 83. Looks like that switch to Ford really might be beginning to pay dividends to him.
Yeah, I've been looking very confident and very clean with some of his passes since he shuffled over to the Ford Mustang the past couple weeks. Give a shout out though to Brightsman and Frazier, who are up double-digit positions and already up to the top 6.
Yeah, Sean Brightsman up in 4th, Seth Frazier in 6th, and you knew those two guys were going to come up, and we were going to be saying their names a lot on the broadcast. And how about Sean Brightsman? He's not driving his usual Toyota. He's driving the Chevy, so that could also play into your psyche a little bit as you realize, I'm not in my normal car. Some things might be a little bit different on the Chevy than what he's used to in the Toyota, but not slowing him down at all.
Indeed. Wesley, you have an update as well for DaVinci Racing after that incident.
Yeah, guys, I tried to go down there and grab a word with Vining in the 333 entry. Obviously very dejected, very upset. He's already put it up and loaded the trailer, loaded up the car out of the broadcast and headed to the house. Very, very disappointed, obviously. Some of the crew members and the people on the DaVinci race team did say just give him a couple of minutes maybe to cool off. He's a little bit dejected with everything that's going on with his virtual iRacing the last couple of weeks. Of course, last Thursday at Michigan, of course, he was attacked by his stowaway pet cat at the house, making him crash in Michigan on the truck race. And then, of course, a disappointing showing here in the Cup race right now at Charlotte. So let him cool off. Maybe he'll come back in about 10 minutes or so, and we'll try to grab him a word then. But this should be a great group on the restart as everybody's got new rubber and a full tank of fuel.
We'll see how this restart goes. Thank you very much once again, Wesley, as Chris White in control of the field. Bill Ross Jr. in second. Stabnow, Brightsman, Thurston rounds up the top 5. iRacing pace car is off. This time going for the stack-up edition of the start. All the way to the restart zone. Green flags back out.
Chris White timed that perfectly as he caught Bill Ross sleeping. Ross was almost at a standstill on that initial start, but look at the run he had a little bit there on the outside. Was able to keep momentum there with the 24, but here we see that inside line really paying dividends right now. But Seth Frazier was able to get around James Thurston. So keep your eyes back here on 4th and 5th. Frazier and Brightsman, if they can duck in, and nope, caution is out.
It's Adam Chisholm involved in the incident, taking another new look tonight, this time the Kodak machine. Check that, the Valvoline machine, as he really struggled in 1 and 2.
In the back here, side by side with Paulison, and it looked like he may have been trying to use a little bit of a side draft and just broke loose on him.
That bobbled way up the racetrack as we've seen, and brings out a quick third caution flag of the race. Punches everyone back up for another restart. 107 laps to go in this one so far. Chris White again the race leader so far. Some of the other storylines to keep an eye on again. Stephen Paulison and many others, mind you. We've talked a little bit about Northwest Racing Series and its competition. The whole Northwest Club is one of the most tightly knit racing organizations and racing groups in all of iRacing, Greg, where they compete at a lot of the major events including all the way back to the initial founding series of places such as the Major Series, Greg.
Absolutely. And the Northwest Racing Club as a whole, like you mentioned, not only are they tight-knit, these drivers out here, they compete together and compete with each other in this series. But any time one of these drivers is competing in a major event, whether it be a major cup race with 300 laps on the board or a street stock race at South Boston, these drivers have each other's back in their racing endeavors. The Northwest Club, like you mentioned, probably the most tight-knit club in the iRacing community, and I'm so grateful to be a part of such a great club here. The Northwest racing scene is one of the best in the country, and it's unfortunate that the Northwest Club doesn't get as much exposure in real life because it is absolutely wild. But Wesley, looks like you were busy.
Yeah, for sure. Stephen O'Hare just came on to pit road. Adam Chisholm, Devin West, who's already 5 laps or more in this race so far. They all came to pit road. A couple of cars in the back just looking like taking on some fuel, making a couple of damage resets, especially the one in that number 45 machine of Tidrick. All these drivers quickly having some adjustments and fixes made. They'll tag the back, and I don't think anybody, Justin, within the top 15 are going to come to pit road because they pit the last caution.
Yeah, track position is so vital here at this racetrack, and at all the 1.5 miles with this package, Greg, you do not want to sacrifice it, even with only about a lap or two on the tires even.
Absolutely not, and we talked about that in pre-race, Justin, about how this track is beginning to show more of the same characteristics of its sister track down in Atlanta, Georgia. As far as the track surface is kind of almost like a cheese grater now with the tires. The older this racing surface gets, it is using up these tires more and more and more. So you don't want to have too much tire wear on your tires with drivers behind you on Ford Fresh Mr. Feelgoods, because it can be a long green flag run. If you catch one of those green flag runs that go quite a few laps, if you have even just a couple extra laps of tire wear on your tires, it can be long days for you if you get caught up behind some of those guys with fresher rubber.
And mind you, too, we talked a little bit about the facet of fast repairs and resets. A couple drivers are currently still on Wesley's direction. In fact, O'Hare, one of the drivers who have not elected to use a fast repair and keeping it banked for the time being.
Yeah, exactly. O'Hare's car is all damaged and crunkled up like a tin can, but he has not pushed that issue yet to hit the reset key. He still has a little minimal damage, if you want to call it that, but other than that, it is not anything severe to cause a manual reset and have to start things over at full tilt, hitting that escape key. So I got to give props to Stephen O'Hare, and the question is, Justin, he might be playing possum and waiting for the right time to do that.
Yeah, and we've seen that work in favor of a few drivers in this series, Greg, a couple times.
Yeah, we have seen it work out more than once, actually, the more and more we think about it, Justin. So might not be a bad idea for Stephen O'Hare. We know he's got speed in the number 40, as he is always, or 41, as he's always one of those guys who's in the mix. But if you are doing that number 41 and you know that you do have the damage, how long do you wait before you decide to use that fast repair? Because it's going to need to happen eventually. So when would you use it if you were Stephen O'Hare?
We've seen drivers wait all the way into the final pit stops, potentially possible in some of these races this season. If he's got the speed, might see him wait all the way to the end of the race. As Wesley said, try and play possum and try and be patient, because you never know what's going to happen to the front of this field with Chris White in control of the field when the green flag drops again, Greg.
It'll be definitely something to keep an eye on throughout the course of the race. Lap 30 currently being worked. It'll be lap 31 when we take the green flag. The Ford Mustang leading them around with another Ford Mustang. Chris White on the inside of row number 1 with a Chevy Camaro. To his outside, Bill Ross Jr., who has really turned it up the last couple of weeks, Justin. A lot of positive momentum going for that 17 car.
Yeah, absolutely. Has looked very impressive tonight. Has looked impressive in the past few weeks. Had a good amount of speed at Michigan. Is looking to have a good amount of speed on this start on the outside of the front row. 104 laps to go from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Field in control once again of the 83 machine. The runs on Freedom Amsor machine. Stacking up the box once again this time. Green flags out. We're back to racing.
Much like the last restart, Chris White is able to time that perfectly where Bill Ross Jr. was at a near standstill in the restart zone. So Chris White really has Bill Ross Jr.'s number on these restarts, at least for now. Remember, the last caution came out right here, so we'll see how it's able to go for a lap. But Chris White opens up a big lead over Stabnow and Ross as they go into turn number 3. Brightsman was right up on the back bumper of Bill Ross Jr., but now ducks down behind Jeff Stabnow. So Brightsman going to the inside line for now.
And the blue line is the best line, to say the very least. The bottom of the racetrack, Ross Jr. stuck on the middle line, trying to give a squeeze to Brightsman, forces him to lift off the gas, pokes his way into third position, and it was important to try and get himself back in that spot to try and make a move if he wants to right here, electing to be patient here and keep that bottom line and not push too hard potentially. Or he can push up the hill.
Pushes up the track just a little bit, and he got aero-tight being up there in the draft of Jeff Stabnow, and that's something that you have to factor in when you're trying to draft in these Cup cars. That aero push that you get when you're stuck in the dirty air behind another car is just so costly, and we saw it right there as he was right on the back bumper of Stabnow, got a little bit aero-tight and pushed right up the track, was able to fend off the challenge from Sean Brightsman, but was not easy, so we'll see if the 17 does anything different this time. Slides up the track a little bit more, but nowhere near the caliber of the last couple of laps.
Yeah, it's like you have 2-3 times the weight in the steering column alone in the race car in iRacing. Stabnow right now trying to overcome that as he floors it on the bottom of the racetrack, closes it down to a quarter of a car length. It's so difficult to break away as well, even on the mid to long run here, unless you break the slipstream. And right now, White is using all of that clean air to his advantage to save the tires, it appears, and try and hold on to the bottom.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like Chris White is pushing it a whole lot as he opened up about a second lead over Stabnow and Ross while they were side by side. But once they got single file, you just saw how quickly they were able to pull right up on them. But I'm not seeing Chris White push it right now. What I'm seeing, like you mentioned, is him kind of riding there and just hanging out right now. Just really just trying to log some laps, and I won't be surprised if Stabnow throws a contest for the lead here in a couple laps if White may or may not just let him have it, because no sense really pushing it here. Still 98 laps to go, and here it comes, Jeff Stabnow to the inside.
Side by side for the race lead. Stabnow takes away the bottom. Chris White trying to defend on the middle line as Ross Jr. waits on behind. Once again, White with the speed and momentum retakes the lead back down the back straightaway into turn 3.
That outside lane really showing how strong it is on corner exit right there, Justin, as Stabnow was to the door and actually, I believe, had the nose in front of him coming off of turn number 2, but White using that outside momentum to not only clear Jeff Stabnow, but opened up a little bit of a gap there as he was a couple of car lengths ahead of Stabnow there as they crossed the strike that time. Single file throughout most of the field here, but not exactly a snoozer as we are seeing side-by-side battles when cars can make their move, but a lot of patience being shown by these drivers. Not a whole lot of unnecessary risk going on right now. A lot of drivers kind of just waiting and picking and choosing their moment.
And that's important, mind you, too, with this package, Greg, because if you are over-aggressive and heat up that right front tire especially, you are forced to get off the throttle and lose momentum. Potentially have to, if you overheat the right rear tire, have to fight a loose race car. You're in trouble the rest of the run, especially the late portion of the green flag runs. If you save the tires, you're in a good situation. If you're in a caution, you're not in a good situation right now. 4 cars spinning in turn 3. Caution is out. And this involved Johnson and the 00 involved in contact entering turn 3. And wow, that was a hard hit. Nowhere to go for the others here, Greg.
Yeah, contact with Brett Johnson and Kevin Smith, and they just plastered the wall. Corey Walters getting involved. Ricky Bozer, I believe that's his second incident of the day. Carl Burke also involved there, second incident of the day. Was that Daryl Tidrick just barely squeaking through that, or did he catch anything in the No Fear Toyota?
Have to see as Johnson got slammed to the fence. In goes hard the 57. Nowhere to go for Frank Harris, who's had horrific luck. And, yep, the 72 just able to drive by slowly at about 30 miles an hour by everything.
Great job there by Daryl Tidrick. But some sparks coming from that 45 car right now. I'm keeping my eyes on him. Granted, he is on the apron of the track as they're trying to let the pace car come up. But Wesley, it looks like you've got company down there as I see just about everybody on pit road.
Oh, yeah, it's about to be a flurry of activity on pit road. Chris White, Stab Now, they're all coming in for pit stops. And ironically, for a second time in the last 10 to 15 laps, I'm very surprised at that. But the crew, they're going to go to work. We're going to look at now and see Jeff Stabnow's crew on the 24. He's right now in that second pit stall. They're going to run to the right side right now. The left side's already done, and that's Sunoco fuel. But quickly, White comes roaring out of the pits before Stabnow. Everyone else with Woods and company all there too. And actually 2 tires on the 46 car also on Brightsman. Brightsman gets the lucky field of everybody coming out smiling. Will it work though? That's the question. And I'm going to try to grab Chris White, the leader, before this cycle of cautions here in just a moment.
Indeed. We'll see how it's out to say. And Greg, this is an interesting call from Brightsman. We have seen bold calls from him before, not with 94 to go.
Yeah, that's my one question here, Justin. Are you, first off, well, my question to you is, are you at all surprised that Sean Brightsman made a move like this? My actual question, is it too early?
Well, it's a track position gamble you have to think of, Greg, here. The question of, is it too early? I think he's having the question of, if it's a long run, I think it will be yes. If it's a caution precaution, Greg, in my opinion, it might be actually a perfect and smart call that might get him 5 positions higher than he was before, Greg. But I believe Wesley is standing by right now with Chris White, who is the first car on 4 tires, currently in P3.
He was really looking good on the pit stop. And Chris White, you've got a really, really strong piece right now, but still almost 90-plus laps to go. What's your thoughts of this race so far in the first 50 laps?
Yeah, we've been very fast. Fast Ford Mustang we got here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We were fast in practice up there, running with Dan West, topping the speed charts there, and kind of slipped up on qualifying, but no worries. We're running really strong right now, and I think we got a good shot at this one tonight.
Man, Sean Brightsman just took 2 tires. Is that a surprise for you guys, or is it just still too early?
You know, it's a bit early. We haven't had a chance to really get an extremely long green flag run to see what tires would do. But Sean's, you know, he's tricky. You know, he's known to take 2 tires and test it out. So we'll see what happens. We got 4 tires, so I think if it stays green, we should be able to get by these guys up in front of me.
And remember, Justin, we're not even at halfway yet. Still about another 30 laps or so. Lap 67 will be the halfway cross flags. And again, a lot of cautions we've seen in the first 40 laps. Part of SimStar Racing, that's Chris White in 83.
Thank you very much, Wesley. And one interesting wrinkle, too, you might have noticed, the reason I said P3, Stephen O'Hare elected to stay out here, Greg. Surprisingly, he also stays out now on about 10 lap-old tires, but with front nose damage.
That is a bit more of a gamble than the 46 of Brightsman. That one I'm not sure on, Justin. He may have just been out there to try to get some laps led for that number 41 Ford. But, man, that's an interesting call there.
Originally thought that the call might have been to try and get a bonus lap, stay out of the racetrack, then come back in the pit lane. Not the case here. As we'll see, O'Hare be the control car, choosing the bottom line for the green flag this time by. Brightsman up on the outside line, Stabnow, White, Ross Jr. rounding out the top 5.
Getting set for a green flag here.
Yep. And real quickly, Wesley, I think is standing by right now with Brightsman. Was with Brightsman, pardon me. We will get a hold of him as soon as we can during a caution flag period. But right now he's control of the field. Outside line. We'll see how this works out here, Greg.
And one more note real quick before we go green. Seth Frazier has received an EOL penalty in the number 32, so he is dropping to the back in the number 32. So Frazier going to have his work cut out for him.
Indeed here, and remember, one of the reasons you may get an end of longest line penalty during green flag conditions during the race is if you reach that 14-point incident limit. They drop you to the back of the field so you can serve your penalty properly without impeding the progress of your fellow competitors. Pace car, meanwhile, is off the track. It's O'Hare and Brightsman in control. Green flag is out. We're back to racing.
So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Stephen O'Hare. Boy, Chris White did not get a good restart there in the number 83, as he's going to fall back to 5th right now, as both Stabnow and Bill Ross Jr. are able to get around him in the 83. Something must have gone wrong there on the number 83, but look at this. What a run by Sean Brightsman on the outside to Stephen O'Hare, and that, you're right there seeing what just 10 laps and a little bit of damage can do to your car, because that was, or Brightsman drove by O'Hare like he was standing still there.
Absolutely, as O'Hare dropping back to 3rd position like a sitting duck. Now it's going to be interesting, though, what happens with the lead. Stabnow already to the back bumper of Brightsman off of turn 2. Has the draft. How does Brightsman handle this is going to be interesting, electing not to pass as Stabnow.
Remember, Brightsman on 2 tires. And we've seen that out of Brightsman before, but never this early. One car pulling on pit road, didn't catch a number, but it was a car with a lot of damage. But here comes Jeff Stabnow to the inside of Sean Brightsman. So Jeff Stabnow maybe trying to send a message to Sean saying, hey man, I think you made that move a little bit too early, as he is coming to the inside of the number 46. And it's a little bit back to Bill Ross Jr. and Chris White, who has gotten the thing gathered back up and got some momentum going. But Stabnow is going to roar back around Brightsman, move Stabnow back to the lead for the 2nd time today.
There go the fresher tires, able to make the move right on by the 46. By the way, pit stop for Burke. He's one of the drivers who had to come down. And Wesley, you have some information on Jeff Stabnow, your leader.
Yeah, I surely do. The 4 car also came down in the pits as well for some service and work and done. Ironically, a lot of cars coming to the pits. But Jeff Stabnow, guys, he is looking for his 3rd win in a row in the Northwestern iRacing Association here tonight at Charlotte. He won the truck race at Charlotte 2 weeks ago. Then he turned around and won at Michigan on Thursday night. 2 wins in a row in the trucks, and now he's looking to try to go for his 3rd win, 2 in a row if you count the Northwest Racing Association banner here tonight at Charlotte. So again, that number 24 truck or car, definitely on the Waltz Beard Co. entry Chevrolet. Very, very strong. And again, looking to go for 3 wins in Northwest Racing competition.
We'll see how his journey goes tonight. Mind you, remember, he is currently trying to close on in to Mark Waltz, his sponsor, along with Sean Brightsman in the top 3 in all-time wins. Currently, the gap is about 0.3 of a second as the top 4 pulled away. Interesting train, though, starting to form up 5th on back. That's because Dan Lowther is starting to drop back with his damage and is allowing cars on the bottom.
And Dan West Jr., the other Dan in the field, getting inside of Dan Lowther. Brock Denny, how about him? We haven't mentioned him at all so far in the 64. Started 22nd, and he has worked his way up well inside the top 10 now in the 8th position. Great job by Brock Denny in the 64, going to work now on his teammate Dan Lowther, as Denny and Lowther have been working together over the last couple of weeks here in this series and other races as well. So they've kind of formed into a new team. Lowther and Denny have. They're working together right now, 7th and 8th in their Chevy Camaros. But like you mentioned, Lowther with a little bit of damage on the 63 as he was up near the top 5 before West Jr. got around him. But Dan West Jr. continues his charge through the field.
And remember, Denny was in the first caution incident as well in this race, too. So he's used the fast repair, Greg. So he's got to be careful on how he approaches things, too.
Yeah, Brock Denny definitely going to have to show a lot of patience here in that number 64, but he has done an outstanding job getting his way through the field from the 22nd position in that number 64, currently riding behind Lowther in front of Ottenbacher and last week's winner, Bruce Lee Weber, in the number 40. How about the guy riding in 11th right now? Ricky Bozer caught up in 2 incidents already today. He's in 11th right now. Great job by Ricky Bozer today.
Just his 10th start of the season, yes, but he has been one of the top drivers in the point standings quietly all season. He's been floating around 10th to 12th in the standings from the drop of the green flag of the start of the campaign, as Denny nearly smacks the wall in front of him.
Yeah, Brock Denny may have caught the wall, and if he didn't, he was super close to it, and that is going to allow Ottenbacher to get the run on him. We will see what happens with the next couple of laps as Denny able to settle it back down, but that allowed Dan Lowther to get away and open up some space over this battle. Bruce Lee Weaver was peeking on Ottenbacher. Ricky Bozer has pulled up into this battle as well. 4-car battle from 8th through 11th right now, and Ottenbacher to the inside.
Lots of passes going around the racetrack, but lots of pit stops and off-cycle situations here, Wesley. Multiple cars you mentioned having damage, having to come down multiple times this green flag run so far.
Yeah, Grande's on pit road. Devin West in the 5-car. He's in the pits. So is Carl Burke in the 53. And he's continuing to go more and more laps down. So is Chisholm as we continue to see this battle. Cars in the back beginning to go a lap down or more. Right now, only 20 cars on the racetrack, and it's still Stabnow leading the battle at the stripe.
Stabnow currently leading by a tenth of a second over Bill Ross Jr. One of the battles that's been heating up is where the two tires of Brightsman have been. He's already dropped to 6th position, Greg. That call has not worked out the way I think he was hoping to, where he was already in the top 10 before the caution.
Yeah, the two tires not quite working out to what Brightsman was hoping. And Justin, I think that it's a safe bet to say that may have been a little bit too early.
Change for 4th position, as you've seen in front of them, too. Dan West Jr. taking advantage of the pass with James Thurston. Was able to gain 0.3 of a second, and Thurston nearly poked his nose back underneath the quarter panel. Getting a bit dicey here for 4th, and this is losing them some time now to the top 3 group.
So we'll see how this goes. Dan West Jr. in the 55, making his way up, but like you mentioned, losing time to the top 3 here. But we'll see if he's able to get a draft on the back of one of these two cars. They are side by side, so West Jr. might be able to get back up into this before too long, as he has got back up to the 4th position. And Dan West Jr., remember, qualified on the pole, led a couple of laps in the early going, but ever since that incident early on, really has been taking his time getting back up there, but it seems to be paying off.
Yeah, you've seen White elect to go up to the wall, allowed the 17 to move on by on the bottom side, and everyone back single file. And this is where that draft effect comes into play again. It's difficult to break in away as the leader because Stabnow has got the cleaner. Yes, he's able to hold more throttle in the corners, but everyone else behind is able to draft off him in that big spoiler down the straightaways. What was a couple tenths of a second gap is back down to a tenth again, and 6 cars covered by just 1.1 seconds.
We'll see how it goes here as Dan West Jr. pulling up on the back now of Chris White. That is going to be for the 3rd position, as Brightsman trying to stay up there with James Thurston, but those two tires, it's going to get harder and harder for him as this run goes on. The longer and longer this green flag run goes, so Brightsman may have been able to learn, though, that he might be able to make it work on a very short run, but the battle for 3rd is heating up, as is the battle for the lead. West Jr. got around White, but Bill Ross Jr. is taking a shot at the lead.
Underneath the quarter panel, side by side, heading off into turn 1 once again. Well, Stabnow try and fight this no. Gives Ross Jr. the run on the bottom side. Can't carry the momentum on the top. See if Stabnow tries to cross. Behind them, West Jr. also made the move on White.
So West Jr. gets the 3rd spot, but Bill Ross Jr., no pun intended, but he took a stab at Stabnow and got the spot. And he will come by and lead, I believe, his first laps of the day, as I do not believe the 17 has led so far, but he settled it down now. Gets his first laps led of the afternoon, and I believe these are his first laps he's led in a long time in this series, because we've talked about him having good runs, but just hasn't really been able to put it all together yet, as the bad luck has struck him. But Bill Ross Jr. having a great performance tonight.
Absolutely, some of his first lead laps of the season. By the way, some information, 3 cars are now out of the race. Multiple others are still in the pit lane, though, losing laps. Grande, the latest DNF of tonight's action. 74 laps to go, coming to 73 for those just tuning in here on LSR TV, your home for sim racing. Top 4, Ross Jr., Stabnow, West Jr., and White. While the top 5 rounded out by James Thurston, separated by 1.1 seconds still. And Stabnow, he's not letting off the pressure here, Greg. He is trying to force a mistake or trying to force too much throttle for Ross Jr. and trying to force him to push his equipment, it looks like.
And is that, again, going back to what we talked about Brightsman, is it too early to really be pushing it like this? Because when you're trying to force a mistake on someone else, it can also use up your equipment a little too much, and you don't really want to do that when you have Dan West Jr. peeking in your mirror. So is it too early for Stabnow to really be trying to get someone to make a mistake like that? Or at this point, would you just kind of ride it out and hopefully catch some luck on a pit stop cycle before too long?
Yeah, remember, we're just only about 10 laps or so from making it to the end on fuel if drivers start to come down to pit.
So we will see how these next few laps go. And it looks like Stabnow has indeed backed off a little bit on Bill Ross Jr. as the pressure begins to come now from Dan West Jr. in the number 55. Just remember what happened between those two cars in the first 5 laps of this one, Justin. So definitely something to keep an eye on as Dan West Jr. gets back up into the mirror of Jeff Stabnow for the first time tonight since that. And he's going to make quick work, it looks like, of the 24 of Stabnow.
Pit stop also underway for Smith as the pass for second is completed off in 1 and 2. As things continue to get interesting here so far on the racetrack. So far, it's been an entertaining one so far. Ricky Boser among some of the drivers who was doing well, but is currently in the pit lane. He's standing by real quickly with Wesley.
Yeah, another driver that's out of the race, Ricky Boser. Ricky, you retired before Hathaway. What happened to your race car? Ricky Boser, do you copy? Okay, guys, I think he's still talking to the crew, so we'll try to grab a word with him here in just a second.
We apologize for that. We'll see if we can get a hold of him once more here, as currently, as all that shuffling happened between second, Ross Jr. has been able to pull the gap a little bit, and just barely, though, is West Jr. and co. holding onto the draft.
We'll see how this goes as Bill Ross Jr. is showing that his number 17 has the speed to really make some noise here in this one. Battle for third now beginning to break out. Chris White on the outside of Jeff Stabnow. I believe that was the first time all day we've seen someone try the outside lane today, Justin, as now he sets up a crossover on Stabnow. And here they come into turn number 3. Chris White tried the outside lane, but had to back out of it. Tries the inside lane, has the nose in front of him.
Yeah, used the crossover down the back straightaway, using that top line, used the banking, used it as a ramp, got momentum, set up this move all the way into turn 1 the next time around. Stabnow still trying to keep hold of the quarter panel, but as we've seen, that's been difficult as the tires wear out. Not able to hold on to third position is Jeff Stabnow. Fight behind them as well for 5th, side by side, Thurston and Ottenbacher fighting.
Yeah, here comes John Ottenbacher into number 89 as Brightsman and Thurston were having their battle going on. Ottenbacher just pulled right up on him and was able to get by both of them within a couple of laps there. So John Ottenbacher was in the 7th spot, moved him back up into the top 5 again. Wow, Thurston right up on the back bumper. He's not letting them get away just yet as they continue to work it out. Ottenbacher now gets a good run down the back stretch as Brightsman onto those 2 tires goes back to work on the 89 of Ottenbacher. But boy, oh boy, John Ottenbacher, he made quick work of those 2. They were going to battle and trying to get things settled out, and he just went right around both of them.
Just past halfway last time by, now 66 laps to go here from Charlotte Motor Speedway. And now it becomes the interesting point here, Wesley. Just approaching the start of the fuel window to make it to the end. What do you expect strategy-wise now for the 17 cars to win the lead lap?
Well, I think we had a lot of caution flags here to open this race, but bottom line is now we're in a transition of a pretty lengthy green flag run, one of the longest we've had so far in the transition of this race. Nightfall has also settled in, so the second half of this race will finish in darkness. Again, it's been a great battle between Ross all the way down to the top 10. And by the way, the driver Denny that you mentioned in the 64 car, he had to gamble, came back, got some damage, went to the pits, and now he's 11 laps down. There are still numerous cars in the pits like Denny, West, Chisholm. Boser's having net code issues. That's why he was unavailable for an interview, and some other drivers dropping out of the race as well. So a good first half, an interesting first half, and I think we're setting ourselves up for a wild second half here at Charlotte.
I think so too, and mind you too, Dan West Jr. is slowly closing back on in, using the slipstream and the draft to get back behind Ross Jr., and they've ran away and nearly ditched Chris White too in the process, Greg.
Yeah, they have really began to check out. These top 2 have Bill Ross Jr. and Dan West Jr. West Jr. now beginning to pull away from Stabnow, though. It looks like there may be something going on.
Trouble turn 4. BJ Tidrick just made contact with Bruce Lee Weaver, was able to save it, nearly spun it around in turn 4 after the 40. Sent it underneath the 72, pushed up the track, and nearly spun around Tidrick.
Boy, that was a great job there by everybody involved to keep the cars pointed in the right direction. Tidrick with an outstanding save in that number 72. Looked like the 40 just pushed up the track a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be the next time around. This is the previous lap. Well, BJ Tidrick set things up, made the pass on the bottom side, was able to complete it through 1 and 2. But it got sketchy there, Greg, once they got through turns 3 and 4 because drivers are starting to get tight, and we've talked about the apron. There's also the difficulty of the tunnel turn in turns 3 and 4, where there's the tunnel under the track, where there's a bump where if you hit it, you might slide up. Looked like Weaver just about hit that bump.
Yeah, Weaver may have caught the bump there, Justin, but one guy who has had early issues but has not let it get to him, Dan West Jr., the 55, just drove right around Bill Ross Jr., a couple of juniors up at the top of the charts right now, but Dan West Jr., after being caught up in the incident on lap 4, just took the lead.
Took the lead in 3 and 4 last time by. Ross Jr. looked like it, Greg, that he gave it to Dan West Jr., let off the gas, stayed on the middle line as soon as he got within 3 car lanes, and just let the 55 go.
So Ross Jr. making the smart move there as we're still got quite a bit to go in this 134 lap race. 134 laps, the scheduled distance, is letting Dan West Jr. get back up there. So for the first time since that lap 4 incident with Jeff Stabnow, Dan West Jr. has gotten back to the lead. Speaking of Stabnow, something has gone sour on the number 24. Yeah. I wonder if the tires are just used and abused at this point, because that number 24 was leading. He is now in danger of losing a spot to Brightsman. He has already fallen outside the top 5. This is for the 6th spot right now that Brightsman is putting the pressure on.
And remember, he was pushing really hard at the start of the last run. Wesley, an update?
Oh, yeah, Jeff Stabnow. Nothing wrong with the car number 24, except he's pushing the right rear. He is literally using up all of the rubber on the right rear of the 24 car. He's hoping for one of those caution flags that have just miraculously came out of nowhere in this caution field event so far in Charlotte. Remember, he didn't get any practice time either. Came right out of the gate, right at qualifying, and put it at P2. So, yeah, right now just pushing the right rear to its limits. Hopefully he'll get a caution. He can change it, but he's happy with the race car here tonight.
And a few drivers going to the pit lane, going off strategy with 58 to go. Lowther and Frazier have also ducked down for the undercut here, Wesley. Also your direction.
Yeah, those pit stalls are beginning to get very full here as we're still just 10 laps after halfway. I wouldn't even call this the money stop yet, but nonetheless, the Menards entry of Frazier's in his pit stall. Crew rushing to the right side virtually. Now they go to the left side. Splashes Sunoco fuel, tear-offs, and he's back down and away. 4-tire change, ready to go. And then, of course, everyone else is rolling on the pit road. So is also the 63 car going to the pit stall. Lowther, 45 was in, Tidrick. And believe it or not, we are seeing the first sequence of green flag pit stops this evening here at Charlotte.
And this is all while the lead is still within 0.2 of a second through the quad oval. 56 to go. And now, Wesley, at this point, when would you come in if you were some of the drivers on the track with how this race has flowed?
Well, I mean, the question is, I would say, what is your fuel gamble? How many laps do you go? Your tires are pushed to the limit. Staff now obviously said he was pushing his right rear. He's already fell back to 7th position. So as we see the leader, Devin West Jr., come off of turn number 4, Ross is right there within a cat's whisker of him. Again, I would say probably between 80 to lap 90. Within the next 10 laps, we'll see these cars come to pit road as the leaders.
See if that's indeed the case here. We'll see with 54 to go this time. Still keep in mind, though, too, Chris White is just holding on to the back draft of these two cars within about 0.7 of a second, just the tail end of the slipstream. But still looking to gather as much speed as he can, running 31 flats. Leader last time by, we're in a 30.977. This time by, the fastest of the three was still West Jr. in the clean air.
West is again, man, that strong car that we talked about is now we have Sean O'Hare. He just hit the pit lane, guys, in the car number 41 entry. We've got more cars dropping off to the bank. And remember, the O'Hare's car gave us quite a scare in the first beginning of this race. And remember, we talked about he has not done a reset yet in this race. This car is still the way that it is as he's on pit road. A couple of other cars in the pits include Denny. A Chisholm is in the pits. And now we see O'Hare's, the car, the crew checking things out on the 41. They're the left side of the car, adding that splash of Sunoco fuel, topping off, getting the windshield teared off, and he's going to be back down in a way. A little track bar adjustment also being made on the 41 car as he will get ready to join the field. He was currently in 11th on the scoring pylon. Now he'll cycle back onto the racetrack right in the middle of oncoming traffic. So yeah, I think we're going to see these pit stops here within the next 7 laps. I really believe it, Justin.
I absolutely believe it too, the way this is starting to flow now, coming out of 51 laps to go this upcoming time by. As this has gone on, though, the leaders have been caught by some of the lap traffic. West Jr. currently on his lonesome. Second place, though, is stuck side by side. Frank Harris driving his way on by with the fresher tires, able to make the move and trying to get one of his laps back. West Jr. gives him the space for the time being, as this has broken up the lead battle a lot here. And traffic is such a thought to come up here at this racetrack if you get these long runs because of the different cycles, Wesley.
Yeah, we lost Greg for a few moments, so I'm going to step in and try to help you out here real quickly. So I guess while we have this this green flag run here going on lap 84 through 134, the distances, we're in the second half of the race and still deciding here, when do you come to pit road? We've seen Devin West Jr. He's got a strong car. Ross led it one time in the race. White led it one time in the race, and so did Brightsman and Stabnow. All these drivers that we've seen, but as they're overcoming lap traffic and, of course, the cars that came to the pits before them, we're going to see how it all cycles out. As now you see the number 8 car of Nichols trying to pull to the inside of the leader of Devin West Jr., and he's a lap down, trying to get back on the lead lap. As I just keep wondering when it's going to be, Justin, that they come to pit road.
That's going to be the big question. The longest drivers went, mind you, in the Coca-Cola 300 of the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, about 66 laps. These drivers, including caution flag laps, are 46 laps into the stint. That's still a window up to 20 laps on the fuel for drivers who may hope and pray for a caution for track position.
Yeah, you got Paulson now onto the pit lane of the number 58 machine. We haven't mentioned Paulson that much, but there's the Jim Beam colors of his machine going to his pit stall. Number 25, crew will quickly run to the right side. They're going to make a track bar and a wedge adjustment on that 58 machine. They're quickly going to go from the other right side of the car to the left side of the car. They're going to jump up, put up 2 new rounds of Goodyear Radial Eagles on the left side, tear off, and he's back down in a way. 64 Denny, you see his car. He's still in the pits. Burke, by the way, has called it a night. He's out. So is Chisholm. So we're also seeing about 5 cars out of this race now as Paulson exits the pits and comes back on the racetrack. And now we look at the 63 car, and everyone else is still wondering when Devin West Jr. and the rest are coming. I was thinking lap 90. They might prove me wrong, Justin.
We'll see here, mind you, too, the undercut is very powerful here, and that's why I think the 90 is where a lot of drivers might start and peel off here, too, when it comes to how the Cup cars race on iRacing, because you got to think there's already about nearly 2 seconds of fall off on the racetrack. These drivers ran 29 flats on the drop of the race.
You know, part of me, being a pit reporter, wants to go to the pit crew and say, hey, guys, when do you come in and pit on the LSR TV double nickel? And but right now, I don't want to bug them. They're in a strategy. They're in the lead. They're doing a phenomenal job right there. Ross, the white machines and the 17 cars look really strong. So has White. So we're just kind of seeing where all these guys are going to make their move. And we're still seeing the leader of West come across the line. And we have 44 laps to go. So there's still a good amount of racing left to go. And I don't know, maybe these guys were hoping for a caution, but here comes Audenbacher. Audenbacher will come to pit road, gentlemen. He will give up the 5th position in the LSR TV number 89 entry. That's the green and black number 89. He will cycle back down through the telemetry, but Audenbacher is on pit road to the attention of his crew. John Audenbacher, the first man on lap 90, proving me right, at least for the cars that are in the top 10, but he overshot his pit stall. That's going to make him lose at least 2 or 3 seconds on the pit exit for the driver of the 89 car. And now Thurston's coming to pit road. James Thurston, car number 2 is in. Stabnow is in car number 24. But at least the drivers of Thurston, Stabnow, Ottenbacher, after his penalty, he exits off the racetrack. Just 1 lap shy of 90 laps. It's lap 91, but they're under pit road now, Justin.
Well, you called it. About up to lap 90, we'll see a lot of the drivers come down, and guess what? 3 of them have, and here comes some more.
And here comes the leaders. Here comes the leaders. Dan West Jr. comes in. Bill Ross Jr. is in. Chris White's in. All the drivers. Boy, I'll tell you what, if I was at Vegas, I'd have put in my chips on everything. Lap 90, but it's lap 91 that they all decide to come to make their pit stops, but they're going to make it work. And this is going to cycle the lead now back to Bruce Lee Weaver. I don't think he's kin to the karate wrestler of Bruce Lee, but nonetheless, they'll continue to make their pit stops under green flag runs, cycle it around to the 40 car. Weaver, Walters, they've not pitted, and I love the transitions of green flag pit stops, you know, Justin, because I work a lot of Cup races, Xfinity Truck Series events, and being there in person, you see it happen live, the way they come in, they cycle in, and you see the transition of how everybody's on the tail end of the lead lap, or they're the cars that ain't pitted yet. And by the time they all pit, you see it sequence right back around where you'll see Dan West Jr. and maybe some of these other guys that pitted before Dan West Jr. come back, Davin West to the lead, to the top spot. So here we go with some more cars that ain't pitted yet.
Corey Walters came down to the pit lane, joined you. Brett Johnson also joining you. And Bruce Lee Weaver still stuck on the racetrack as off and away goes the 9.
Yeah, more pit stalls going on as we watch this race continue. As, again, Weaver is the man that everybody is keeping their eye on now, because now Bruce Lee Weaver is the driver that is at the top spot. Frazier is in second, Seth Frazier. Then you've got Tedrick and Lowther. Remember Tedrick, wasn't he the one that gave you a scare earlier in the race in that car number 72? I mean, he about got wrecked coming off of turn 4, bouncing off a car. And for the most part, I'm very surprised that we're seeing now this long green flag run.
Bruce Lee Weaver spinning around your race leader. Collected with the 00. Caution flag is out.
Wow. And that's one of those cars that had not pitted yet. And Greg Rance, I think you're back with us, man. You came back just in time, but this is the end of a long green flag run as we see the replay.
I came back into the tower just in time to see the 00 and 40 get together, and yikes, Bruce Lee Weaver looked like he was trying to maybe make the same thing work that worked last week, but not to be tonight.
Take another look, and they hit first, and then Weaver came down the second time and ends up collecting them and bringing out the caution, and this just shuffled up everything. 2 drivers got their laps back from that spin, but 16 are on the lead lap, and he's still technically the leader.
Still the leader. We will see what happens, though, because he has a lot of damage on that number 40. Looks to be staying out, though, right now, as he's going to try to make this work.
Modified, guys. Oh, my goodness. His car's all damaged. He's going to possibly have to do there's no doubt about it, unless he's already used it up. He's going to have to do a master reset here, seriously.
Yeah, the modified look may work about an hour and a half up the road at Bowman Gray Speedway, or the stadium, but I don't think that's going to work here on the mile-and-a-half Charlotte Motor Speedway. But gotta applaud what he's doing right now. Knowing that he was still going to be the leader, he had to stay out there and try to stay up front and keep as much of that track position as he can. Great move there by Bruce Lee Weaver to stay out as long as he could, but here it is, no surprise he has to make that stop now.
A lot of cars making the way back. Wesley, go ahead.
Yeah, Stabnow coming on the road. So is the 32 car. I kind of find that a little ironic. Seth Frazier and Weaver, we knew they had to pit, but obviously Jeff Stabnow coming to the pits. That's kind of ironic. I wasn't expecting that, but there's a whole bunch of cars on the pit lane again. Lowther is in. Davin West Jr. is in. Ross White, all these cars. O'Hare, Tedrick, Frazier, all going to the pits. And honestly, Justin, they just pitted. They just pitted less than 5 laps ago.
But some of the cars, mind you, too, had been on the undercut strategy where they were on 20-lap older tires compared to some of the drivers who had just pit. And that's where a lot of those cars came in. And mind you, The caution flag actually helps out Wesley Bruce Lee Weaver. He's still in 5th with the pit stop.
Yeah, got to give props to him, man. Bruce Lee Weaver, the car might be all damaged and look like a crunkled can like I modified a moment ago. Remember, they get that one master reset, and he took advantage of this. If there's one man that might get the attaboy or the props, he will probably go down for this tonight here at Charlotte, guys. Bruce Lee Weaver involved in that wreck while leading, hitting a lap car with that 0-0 of Kevin Smith Jr., who, by the way, is now in the pits with heavy damage. Reset. He's back in the game, and he's still in the top 5.
By the way, the reason you've seen Stabno in the pit exit, had to let cars go, came in a closed pit. He has pinned a lap down, Greg, because of that caution flag.
Yeah, that has got to be a heartbreaker for Jeff Stabno in the number 24. That's going to be really, really tough to get back from this late in the going. So definitely going to be something to keep our eyes on through the course of this next run, as Jeff Stabno in the number 24, so strong in the early going, pinned a lap down right now. He is in the lucky dog position, Justin, and he is the only car being scored 1 lap down. The next closest car to him is Brett Johnson, who is 3 laps down. So Stabno, no doubt, is going to be hoping for a quick caution on this restart here, because he is the only driver being scored 1 lap down. He will be in the lucky dog position, pretty much solidly locked into that lucky dog position, unless something drastic were to happen in the early stages. So Stabno, he's going to be hoping for a caution real quick here.
In total, 13 total cars on the lead lap, 3 different wave around cars at this moment. Remember, caution came out after contact with a 0-0 in the 40. Coming now to what might be a 35 lap short to the finish. Wesley standing by with Bruce Lee Weaver.
I do. Bruce Lee Weaver, you had some serious damage getting tagged by that lap car, but you were able to use that one master reset, and you still hang on in the top 5. What's your strategy for the race with under 50 to go?
We're just going to try to keep this car up in the top for a good finish.
What was your thoughts of what happened there when you got tagged by that car? Did you realize that it was so bad that you had to do that reset? And did lap traffic need to kind of give way for you, or did you expect this to happen?
Well, it's obvious I was looking for a caution to happen, but didn't necessarily want to be the caution.
There you go. Well, we'll let you go, buddy. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. That's we'll let you get back in your box. That's Bruce Lee Weaver, and again, his thoughts on the thing, guys, is I didn't want to be a part of the caution, but I guess I am.
Yes, indeed. Sometimes that just is the way the cookie crumbles. 35 to go. John Ottenbacher, though, is your race leader, though. He's one of the few cars who stayed out on that caution flag. Brightsman's up to 2nd, Thurston in 3rd. Frazier, Weaver, BJ Tidrick, O'Hare, Ross Jr., Chris White, Daryl Tidrick rounding out the top 10. This also worked out a ton for the 46, Greg.
Definitely Sean Brightsman getting back up in the 2nd place when it's all said and done. But how much right now is our producer, Cody Wooden, mad at Sean Brightsman for clicking the wrong car right now? Because that would be an LSR TV front row for this restart if Brightsman was in the right car, if he had picked the usual Toyota Camry that he runs, but picked the Chevy Camaro that did not have the LSR TV logo on it. But we're still going to call it an LSR TV front row for this restart. But John Ottenbacher has had a very, very good run tonight, qualified in the 3rd spot, leading laps here late. Very good run for Ottenbacher today.
Is that Ottenbacher's day? Who else could be battling for this lead? We're about to find out. Early launch, green flag is out. Back to racing from Charlotte. Ottenbacher brings them down across the front straightaway through the quad oval. Brightsman cycling down to the bottom side. Thurston, Frazier, and Weaver all with good starts as well, Greg.
Yeah, very good restart there. A lot of drivers going smooth there on that restart and not pushing it a whole lot. I expected, with us being inside 40 to go here, beginning lap 100 on that restart, I was expecting guys to push the envelope. Now we're beginning to see it as Brightsman getting them run on the outside of Ottenbacher. Ottenbacher slid up, as did the 32 of Frazier. He got to a spot where they couldn't even fit a piece of paper between him and James Thurston there. Everything settled down nicely, but some interesting stuff going on here through turn 3 and 4 there.
A little bit dicey there as Brightsman now up to the race lead for some of his first lead laps of the day. Thurston, though, trying to move his way on forward. The top 3 still all drivers who stayed out. Frazier did try and poke his way underneath the 4. Thurston still cannot poke his way underneath the 89, though, with how dicey it's getting. Had to check up, and that's allowing Frazier to build some momentum for the quad oval.
Frazier with a good run going up on Thurston. Thurston's car, you know what Thurston's car kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of Jeff Green's old Best Buy car from 2007. Kind of has that vibe going on right now. But here he comes to the inside of John Ottenbacher for the second spot. Good move by Thurston there to get to the bottom. He timed that perfectly, Justin.
Ottenbacher lets them go. He
problems behind him.
Spinning off into the grass. O'Hare in trouble. Caution is out. BJ Tridrick also involved. And a hard hit for the 41 right into the middle of the pit lane.
They got together off turn 4 there, Justin, and came together there right in the quad oval, and the 41 O'Hare definitely got the worst of that one.
Let's take a look here, and this was a battle inside the top 10. Showing this starting for the back straightaway, Greg, as they got really dicey coming off the corner.
Yeah, this was the battle for the 6th position between O'Hare and Tidrick. Both drivers had damage earlier on in the race.
Just came up and hit him in the quarter panel, pushed up the track, Greg.
Yep, that's that aero tight we were talking about with this package, and man, oh man. O'Hare comes down and hits the inside wall. And I'm sure the driver in that car who's sitting in the next stall behind him was thinking his lucky stars there that O'Hare went a spot ahead of him, but that's a tough break for O'Hare, who, remember that gutsy move he took earlier in the race to stay out with that damage, and unfortunately had to wind up using that fast repair just 5 laps before that happened. So Stefan O'Hare has brought it behind the wall there, Wesley.
Yeah, that's a tough break for Stefan O'Hare. I'm going to try to grab a word for him here in just a second. But by the way, guys, before that caution flag fell, I grabbed a word with John Ottenbacher. John told me in the pits on the radio, Wesley, my car is just not strong on the restarts. I just have so much trouble getting going on cold tires, and that's why you're seeing me struggle in the 89. Give me about 5 to 10 laps, and then this car is back golden again.
See how it works out here, now in 4th position. He again stayed out, as mentioned. A few other drivers did come down to the elect to take fresh tires, though, about 7th, 8th on back. Dan West Jr., the first of those drivers who pit. Weaver, White, BJ Tidrick, Corey Walters also ducked down to the pit lane to go off cycle here, coming to 30 laps to go here, Greg.
Yeah, now we're starting to see strategy really begin to vary here, Justin. So we've talked about strategy varying here through the course of the day, but this, I believe, has to be our most varied different strategies that we've had in a race this season, and it's going to be definitely something to keep our eyes on. All these different strategies going on. We have so many different cards in play right now. This has turned out to be one of the more unpredictable races of the season.
DNF for O'Hare. Standing by with him is Wesley.
Yeah, tough break for Stefan O'Hare. Stefan, I know you had a really, really strong piece. You kind of had to hold off on doing that reset. Then you reset, 5 laps later, you're in calamity. What's your thoughts of the race and what took you out?
Well, yeah, it's frustrating. We had some problems there in the beginning of the race and fell back, and so I gambled on some strategy and stayed out. Figured track position would help us out, and I felt like it did with that caution coming out, starting there, top 10. It was gonna play out pretty well, I felt like. Unfortunately, we didn't make it to the checkers.
Well, I know you definitely gambled and tried everything that could. We'll see you with the trucks on Thursday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
And that's Stefan O'Hare, guys. He's okay, just a little dejected, and again, a tough break. If you want to give him an attaboy, literally done that reset with a lot of damage on his car. 5 laps later, taken out by the 72 machine and of BJ Tidrick, and his race is done here at Charlotte.
Unfortunate for O'Hare, involved in that incident, crashing hard into the pit lane. You just never know when you're going to get the caution flag, though, or be the caution flag, as we've seen before, where if you use it, you lose it. I don't think he was expecting that after he used it, right?
Yeah, absolutely not. And he had damage early in the race, Justin, so he made it about as far as he could before he just got to the point that he absolutely had no other choice. He had to use it, and unfortunately, just 5 laps later, it all goes away for him in the number 41. So that has got to be a heartbreaker for the 41. Texas winner in the Truck Series, Stephen O'Hara, has had some great runs in the series this season. Just unfortunately, ever since that win in the trucks at Texas, just hasn't been able to put it all together in the luck department. Has had some good runs, a couple of podiums here and there, just not quite there at the end just yet.
Brightsman in control of the field here. 1 to go for the restart. He's at the bottom of the racetrack. Thurston, Frazier, Ottenbacher, Ross Jr., Tidrick, West Jr. had all been in the top 8, as well as Dan Lowther as they go and line up down this back straightaway. Keep in mind, though, the top 7, Greg, elected to stay out again on the older tires. Everyone else, they wanted some fresh rubber, even though they ran 7 laps.
And one of those drivers was Bruce Lee Weaver in the number 40, Justin. He was the guy who was leading, or was the caution, but because he was able, or so far ahead, he was able to hang on to the lead and make it around on pit road for the caution and stay in the top 5. He just pitted once again to now restart in the 9th position with a little bit fresher tires than the cars in front of him. So Weaver still making it work for him right now.
Green flag waiting up at the stand. Brightsman in control of the field. Back off to racing we go from Charlotte. 28 to go.
Good restart from Brightsman to pull way ahead. But here comes Seth Frazier inside the Thurston with Bill Ross Jr., another driver who has been having a spectacular run in that number 17. But Brightsman, the man who has won Texas and Atlanta, Charlotte's twins, this season, have both gone to Brightsman, and here he is leading once again late, but it's not done yet because Frazier is beginning to make that momentum come up once again in the 32.
And the question's going to be as well, how long will it take for the fresh tire drivers to make their way through the field? The first of those cars already up to 5th. That's Dan West Jr. He's just behind the top 4, and he has been stellar throughout this night tonight. He's been one of the top drivers all season. He's been one of the top drivers this evening as they fight with Ottenbacher behind him.
Yeah, great job here by West Jr. getting himself back into this after that incident on lap number 4. But look at Daryl Tidrick in the No Fear Toyota. He has worked his way up now into the 6th position. As I say, he gets together with Ottenbacher. Ottenbacher's in the wall. They all keep it going. Ottenbacher did catch the wall, though, and that is going to be tough for him because that has been such a good run, and there goes Weaver.
Caution flag is out, crashing hard. Lowther, Chris White, Bruce Lee Weaver, once more back under yellow after a 4-lap run.
That's going to end it for Weaver right there because he has already used the fast repair. Dan Lowther had a strong run going. I saw Chris White pointing the wrong way on the one-way on the backstretch there. So that's a lot of drivers who have been very, very strong today that are suddenly finding themselves on pit road late.
And Chris White tried a very bold move, tried to make it 3 wide off the apron after they're checking up, but he bobbled around hard on the bottom of the racetrack, Greg.
Yeah, Chris White, remember, led a good chunk of the race early on in this one, and now he was one of the several drivers caught up in that one. Saw him, Dan Lowther, and Bruce Lee Weaver all caught up in it. So 3 very, very fast cars caught up, and Bruce Lee Weaver looked like he was in position to maybe replicate his success from Michigan last week, has officially retired from the race.
So an air DNF tonight, the 7th total, give or take, tonight. And Brightsman, he's coming into pit here, Wesley, sacrificing the lead, and a few others are coming with.
Yeah, everybody else was playing possum behind him, especially Frazier. Frazier will now cycle back to the lead to give Seth Frazier, the number 32 car, the lead. But Brightsman will come to the pits. He'll come to the pit road, and you got to wonder, guys, if this will be the money stop or if we'll have any other cars come to the pits before this last sequence of cautions. But yes, Brightsman's in. The 17 is in of Ross, and of course the 55 of Devin West Jr. Notable drivers coming out of their pit stop. We got a wreck in the pits. 63 Lowther has crashed on pit road. He was stuck in reverse right in front of Devin West Jr. and company. And I got to wonder if that's going to cause a problem for any other takers. But Lowther wrecks coming off of pit road, Justin. This will change everything.
Looks like on the replay, you'll see it here. Chris White was right behind him. Lowther was trying to get in his box. Chris White is nearby him, and They weren't at the point where you go through the cars here on iRacing. They made contact, Greg, and hard smash for Lowther, no more front nose.
So that is going to change it up even more here. Lowther not able to get into his pit box. He has to get going and come around once again before he can get back into his pit stall. But man, oh man, they are all over the place right now. Both Chris White and Dan Lowther were caught up in that accident there, Justin, that brought out the caution. Then before they even make it back to the pit stall, they have even more discussions. So interesting to say the least. Lowther now going to pull on the pit road once again to try to get those repairs done this time around, but that is going to drop him back to the tail end of the field.
Yeah, to remember, Lowther has already had a significant amount of damage in this race tonight, already coming back down. Couldn't come down before because, well, he had technically missed his pit box and was in the middle of the artificial turf after the contact. Let's get a reset. Frazier's in the lead. Daryl Tidrick and BJ Tidrick also stayed on the racetrack. They're now second and third. Jeff Stabnow back in the lead lap and up to fourth once again. Paulison, Frank Harris, Bill Ross Jr., Sean Brightsman, James Thurston, Dan West Jr. rounding up the top 10. And we have Wesley on the radio with Chris White after that incident.
I do. Chris White, Wesley, LSR TV booth. What happened out there? You had such a strong car. Weaver got into you. How much damage is on the 83? I know you're still on the lead lap.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it all on the 40. I think I had a little part in that, just aggressive racing here at the end, just trying to work my way back up to the front. It's kind of frustrating getting stuck back here when I had a fast car out front earlier. So just aggressive racing you're seeing out here right now.
Do you think we're going to see more of this as we get to the finish of this race?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it's going to get aggressive. You're probably not going to see, I should say you probably will see another yellow or two. It's going to get pretty dicey out here.
There you go. That's the thoughts of the driver, Chris White. We're trying to grab Bruce Lee Weaver, but I've not been able to grab him yet as he's still in the virtual infield care center. But, guys, another quick note. Teammates 1, 2, and 3, they all stayed out on the racetrack. Good statistic, Greg Wentz, as we get ready to go back to green.
Yeah, those three right there, Frazier and the Tidrick brothers, Daryl the younger brother, BJ the older brother, teammates. These guys all help run the Northwest Tour, the Super Late Model Series that runs in the winter here. Seth Frazier and BJ Tidrick, they were the masterminds behind that tour. Them helping run that series got them working together in this series. And Daryl Tidrick, the younger brother of BJ Tidrick, jumped in as well. So they have formed their own little team right now. They've been doing a lot of road course racing here, and was talking with BJ earlier in the week. He said that he firmly believed that the road course racing is helping him with the car control right now. And the other two definitely share the same thoughts. Justin, they're 1, 2, 3 here for this restart late.
It's going to be interesting to see how they play this here and if they can keep it 1, 2, 3 with still 21 laps to go in this race. Frazier, we've talked about him, had his strongest race in the past few weeks at Michigan after having a lot of rough runs through the middle portion of the past 7. Now, he looks to try and come away with the victory. He, however, is on some of the oldest tires in the field. 17 total laps, including caution flag laps. Daryl Tidrick in the same boat. Stabnow and BJ Tidrick on fresh Goodyear Eagles. Pace car drops off the track. Frazier in control of the field. This time goes with the early jump. All three teammates off and away. Back to racing with Charlotte. 21 to go.
Frazier able to get the lead away here on the restart. Daryl falling into the clutches of his brother BJ. BJ to the inside, but here comes Jeff Stabnow. The new look on that number 24 has already gone to victory lane once in the Truck Series, trying to get his 3rd win of the season in the Cup Series and 5th overall on the season, as he has 2 in each division here in the Northwest Racing Series, and he has gotten around both Tidricks to come after Seth Frazier. And Seth Frazier, a guy who's really been making some noise in this series the last couple of years. Last year with the B cars and this year with the Cup cars, has really been making some noise in the win column, trying to track down Stabnow, Brightsman, and the likes of them. But he is in trouble right now with Stabnow on form fresh Mr. Feelgoods, and he is making moves in that number 24 car, looking for back-to-back series wins in his 3rd of the season in the Cup Series.
And don't forget, there are multiple drivers who are just a couple lap old tires right where you see that 2 wide in the grouping, but the battle for the race leads on. Stabnow side by side with Frazier. How aggressive will he send it? Very so. Move Stabnow up to the point. He's your race leader coming back from a lap down in this race, Greg.
Jeff Stabnow needed that caution to get the lucky dog, made it work, and he is making it work right now because he is all over the place, getting back up to the lead. Remember, we talked about that he was the only driver one lap down, needed a caution, and he needed one quickly, got it, and then with some pit strategy has worked his way back up to the lead. But here comes Dan West Jr. in the 55 making his way back up, another driver who's had to make his way through the field more than once tonight. Don't look now, the 55 is coming in a hurry.
And those are some of the drivers right there you see on your screen with the freshest tires in the field. They pit on the last caution flag. West Jr. leaves that contingency. They're still scrapping out of the front, though. Frazier trying to poke underneath. Stabnow. They dance around off the corner, still side by side in multiple groupings. Stabnow holds on for the time being. And as we were talking about this a little bit before, it's going to be interesting to see what Stabnow can do after coming back from that one lap down.
Yeah, guys, I just spoke with Stabnow a moment ago before the restart, and he said, Wesley, my tires are a couple of laps colder, used up more than the drivers that pitted before me. But the bottom line is this: I'm going to get that lucky dog. I did it. I'm back on the lead lap. It is wreckers or checkers, and that's why you see him fly through the field and take it to the lead. But it is a killer hornet's nest behind him with under 20 laps to go.
Pushed up the track is BJ Chidrick. Able to keep it going, though, but gets freight trained by a group of cars 2-3 wide. Dan West Jr. gets a bump from Brightsman. They all cycle around and get to the bottom of the racetrack. Paulson tight underneath the 72. Still clean and green, though, but keep an eye on Bill Ross Jr., the freshest tires in the field now with the grouping. They've caught up to second, and Frazier now wants the lead.
Did you see the 46 of Brightsman push West Jr. through the middle there about half a lap ago? But right now, it's all about that 17 of Bill Ross Jr. just rocketing through the field right now. Got around the Tidrick brothers, now going on the outside of Frazier. Here comes Dan West Jr. with the side draft on Seth Frazier as Stabnow tries to open it up just a little bit here, but here comes Bill Ross Jr. right up on the back bumper of Jeff Stabnow. Move out of the way, Jeff, I'm coming, and I want my first win of the season. Oh, but he caught the apron.
Ross Jr. forced to check up. Here comes West Jr. to the outside of the 17. Side by side for second. West Jr. now boxed in. Stabnow trying to play the lines. 13 to go this time by. West Jr. trying to floor it. Ross Jr. nearly slides up the track as Dan gets clear.
Stabnow in the lead still, but here comes Dan West Jr. with the run on the outside. Has help from Frazier. Sean Brightsman catching the tail end of this battle as well. BJ Tidrick not going away into number 72. West Jr. to the outside. Frazier in the wall.
Frazier bouncing off the safer barrier down the back straightaway, straightens it out. We stay green. That drops him back. Contact for second. Ross Jr. and Stabnow collide. Caution is back out. It is a wild one at Charlotte.
Tidrick flying around on his lid.
And a bit of a squeeze down the backstretch. Ross Jr. tried to poke his nose to the top line and right by Stabnow. And you'll see it right here. Just not enough room. That was just after Frazier smacked the wall with the arrow push. Brightsman collected in the incident, a couple others at least. Frazier got hit on the front nose. And now this changes everything. Strategy now completely blown wide open, Greg.
Absolutely, Justin. This is going to be... I don't even know how to describe what just happened, and I don't know how to describe what is about to happen, because this is going to be unreal how this one unfolds after this is over.
See if anyone jumps their way down to the pit lane. As it looks like, yes, indeed, a bunch of drivers. Yes, Dan West Jr. nearly hit the barrels trying to decide, Wesley, if you wanted to come down.
Yeah, they're going to come to pit road here and take on tires and fuel. This might be what you call the money stop as Dan West Jr. is in. Ross is in with his damage. We'll talk with him in a moment. Brightsman, Thurston, Ottenbacher, Frazier, they're all coming to pit road. Money stop, little track bar, wedge adjustments. They're going to add on a splash of fuel, Sunoco, to take it to the finish. And in addition to that, I've also caught up on pit road with Jeff Stabnow. Jeff, what's your take of the race and the incident while leading with less than 15 to go?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. I know I was trying to get as much room getting into the corner as possible while leaving him room. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to be able to tell if that was me getting up too high or him getting into me until I see the replay. But it was just hard racing here at the end of the race. And I wasn't going to give anything up too easy.
He got into your, he got to your right rear.
Okay, well, I figured he got to my right rear. What I don't know is if I slid up in front of him or not. I was trying to leave him a little bit of room there, but get as much as I could getting into the corner. So, again, I don't know if I just got up and slid in front of him at the last second or if he just ran me over. But if he ran me over, that sucks.
Now, you did say you have a reset, so you're going to use this reset, but you don't think your car can get to the finish?
Well, we'll see. You know, I think everybody just stopped and got a bunch of fresh tires. So, you know, I got to drop back here a little bit further. So that's a lot of positions to get here in 7 or 8 laps. If we get a couple green-white checkers, maybe I can be in contention for a podium. But it's going to be pretty tough to get up there to the front.
Well, we'll see what happens. Justin, a tough break for Jeff Stabnow, but hey, we've seen some crazy stuff by that 24 LSR TV Walks Beard Co. Chevrolet. Came back from being 1 lap down, got a lucky dog, rallied through the field, and like I said, before it crashed, checkers or wreckers. That's exactly what Jeff Stabnow said before that incident happened with the machine of White and Company.
So that has really shooken up everything here. Few fast repairs were used, mind you, during that. Dan West Jr. is the leader. Brightsman electing to keep his car the way it is with a bit of right front damage. Seth Frazier, however, did use his Greg. That's the lucky thing. He banked and kept his after his nose damage. This is why you keep it, in case you have a car fly into it.
Yeah, definitely. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier in this race there, Justin, with keeping that fast repair as long as you possibly can to try to make it work. And Frazier able to pull it off there, but he's going to be buried in the field. Looks like he's going to actually not be back as far as I thought. He will be restarting 6th, it would appear, in the Duracell Ford Mustang. But we're inside of 10 to go now, Justin, so this is going to be all about now who can be up in the position at the end, with Dan West Jr. leading the way, Sean Brightsman in 2nd, James Thurston. How about an attaboy to Thurston, staying up near the top 5 all day, currently riding in 3rd right now. If he can hang on to this, it'd be a great job for him in that number 2. Chris White, the 83, caught up in that incident a while ago. He's back up in the 4th position. So this race not over by any means.
Coming to an 8 lap to go restart here. And want to ask your take on this, Wesley. What are your expectations of what we're about to see? What could be a crazy finish from Charlotte?
Oh, I don't think they're done yet. You know, this was supposed to be the proverbial week of the NASCAR All-Star race there this past weekend. I think this is our All-Star race here with the Northwest Racing Series. They're going to tear some more stuff up. And I will tell you this, I think that 17 car White could be the dark horse to win this race. But I will tell you, I believe if things happen the way that I think they are, we're going to see Stabnow get back in this battle. He's not out yet, guys. He's only in 12th and on the lead lap.
Absolutely. Just 14 cars on the lead lap, by the way. Daryl Tedrick and Gary Nichols got end of longest line penalties as well with that last caution flag. See how this start is taken as they go back in 3 and 4 once more. Dan West Jr. again in control of the field. Brightsman 2nd. Thurston and White in row 2. Ross Jr. Frazier row 3. Father Adenbacher row 4. Paulison and Harris row 5. Walters and Stabnow in row 6. Bonnie the flagman waiting up at the stand. West Jr. back in control of the field. The effective Web Solution Chevrolet Camaro back on the gas. 8 laps to go from Charlotte.
West Jr. trying to get out there. He wants his 3rd win of the season to tie Brightsman for the most in the Cup Series this season. Thurston to the inside of Brightsman. Bill Ross Jr. right there in the 17 has been one of the fastest cars all day long in that number 17. Boy, Brightsman and Thurston got close together here. Chris White, Seth Frazier trying to get up there as well. Dan Lowther creeping back up. Oh boy, Ross caught the apron just a little bit and pushed up the track. Dan West Jr. loves seeing this hornet's nest in the mirror because it's allowed him to pull away, but this is not what he wanted to see, as it looks like now Thurston and Ross have settled things down and they might be able to draft right back up to him before too long.
Yeah, the gap is only about 0.4 of a second as they pass by the two drivers who ended with longest line penalties. Remember, if they have a 14 incident point limit reached, that means they have to serve a stop and go penalty. That was the case for those two drivers. Top 5 now single filed out. Do you think there's enough time for Thurston Ross Jr. here, Greg, to close this gap?
There very well could be, Justin. We still have about 5 or 6 laps to go. They're not going to be able to do it if Ross can get to the inside of Thurston. They're going to have to work even harder there. Bill Ross Jr. wants it up there in the second spot. He's got help coming from Chris White in the 83. As he gets to the inside of Thurston, they almost get together.
Up the hill goes Thurston Ross Jr. up to second spot. Now it's just him in about 7 car lengths. The space between him and West Jr. Keep an eye as well on Frazier. He's trying to get his white by Chris White just behind him. Pushes the 83 up the hillside this time to take away fourth. That's
contact, Dan Lowther.
Dan Lowther had to cradle the apron, was able to save it in the backdrop. Audenbacher and Breitzman were also in that grouping, Greg. Still green.
Battle for second, breaking out once again. Thurston getting down to the inside of Ross. Frazier right there as well. And this is allowing Dan West Jr. to scoot away into number 55. Lead now 0.8 of a second over Bill Ross Jr. in the closing stages.
Just past 4 laps to go in this race. West Jr. looking to come away with the W. Caution flag is out. Another big wreck. Stabnow's in it. Corey Walters in it. Paulson and a few others also in it. And now this will mean green-white checkered time at Charlotte.
And Stabnow falls victim to what we saw with Bruce Lee Weaver earlier. Wanted a caution, but didn't want to be the caution. Paulson and Breitzman got together in front of him.
Here's a look at the replay of exactly that. And you see right there, Paulson just pushed up the hill, clipped the apron.
Right, guys, I don't think Stabnow got that bad of a damage though on the 24.
Yeah, you see Stabnow on your screen there. Here's the problem though, Wesley. He's got no front nose clip.
Oh yeah, that's not good. I didn't see that part.
That's another modified for Bowman Gray.
Yeah, modifieds don't usually do well on mile and a halves and super speedways, unfortunately.
You know what we could do? We could turn these guys loose on the Legends Oval here on the infield of Charlotte Motor Speedway, and that could be a Bowman Gray race.
Can you even fit more than side-by-side for some of these cars, though?
It might not work well, but I think some guys would be willing to try it.
Guys, I don't know if you saw that, but did you see everybody play a possum on Devin West Jr. and come to the pits like it was really, really exciting the way they done that to Dan West? Now, let's recap. Charlotte has not been too keen to Dan West Jr. Greg, let's go back to a couple of weeks ago on a Thursday night. Dan West Jr. was in the second position of the Northwestern iRacing Truck Series event here at Charlotte. He dropped to the bottom of the apron and spun his truck out, losing it on the last lap, giving up a second place finish. And he literally just psyched everybody on back except for Breitzman, Walters, Harris, Paulson. Obviously, they had to come to the pits because they got damage being caught in that wreck, or they decided to pit. But for everyone else, they literally slithered their way like a snake to the commitment line and quickly bolted right to avoid the pit commitment. And what a move on Dan West Jr. Guys, over time, I still think this race isn't done yet.
Mind games at peak right now. Dan West Jr. saying, hey, I'm not done thinking just yet. And we will see what happens. But Justin and Wesley, there is a very, very fast Chevy Camaro that's going to be starting right alongside Dan West Jr. We cannot talk about Bill Ross Jr. what he has done today enough, because that number 17 has been outstanding tonight.
Hey, Justin, didn't I say that was my pick to win the race? Didn't I say on that last restart, keep your eye on the 17 car? Look where he's at. I'm back.
Yep, he's saying hello. Absolutely correct. Looks like on the pick once more. It's going to be the question, though, of how he handles this green-white checkered. For those tuning in for the first time here on LSR TV for a stock car broadcast, green-white checkers work as this. They will get the green flag in about a few moments or so. You must make it to the white flag and complete the end of the first lap under the green flag to have the race be official. If you get a caution flag, even a few feet before the start and finish line, they will go to the second and final attempt. Then if they get a caution flag the second time around, before they reach the white flag, race is official, race finishes under green. If they have anything happen after the white flag comes out, anything goes, meaning if there's a crash, no caution flag will come out to freeze the field. Drivers must make it to the checkered flag to officially finish this race. Pressure is on every single time. We've talked about this, Greg. It's been important to finish with the race clean and green if you're any of these competitors. Tonight is no exception with how we've seen these crazy starts lately.
These restarts have been on another level tonight, Justin, and we're getting ready to see at least one, possibly two more here if we have a caution before they make it back around to the start finish line to take the white flag. This has been an outstanding race, and I tell you, the fans in the stands, they've been going wild all day long, and it's going to be even better here today. I was driving the pace car USA International last night. I'm glad I'm not in the pace car tonight, though, because I would much rather be up here in the tower watching this one unfold.
Hey guys, and don't forget, the real NASCAR comes to Charlotte next Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week.
Yeah, that is going to be very interesting to see how the racing goes. Of course, racing was back as of this weekend at Darlington. Xfinity Series drivers taking to the track tomorrow at Darlington, as well as the Cup Series guys back on Wednesday. But one to go for the restart. Here's how they will shuffle around. West Jr. is in control of the field. Ross Jr. on the outside. Row 2, Thurston and Frazier. Chris White, Dan Lowther, and John Umbacher, Jeff Stabnow all stayed out under the caution. Everybody else pit for either faster pairs or new tires. Brightsman and Paulison, Walters, Tidrick, Harris round out the drivers on the lead lap. Could be anyone's race here with how this race has flowed in the past 40 laps, Greg.
Going to be interesting because the last 40 laps have been stuff of legends here at Charlotte, and we are not done yet, guys. Coming to green flag, field in the hands of Dan West Jr., another junior to his outside, Bill Ross Jr. in the number 17. Let's see what happens.
iRacing official pace car ready to peel off in turn 4. Already they're stacking up behind the 55. Bump trap from behind. West Jr. off and away. 2 laps to go from Charlotte.
Look at Frazier right on the back bumper of Bill Ross Jr. there on that restart, trying to get that number 17 going because Frazier knew that was his shot. If he wanted to get up there and contend for this win, he had to give a shot to the 17 because he knew that Dan West Jr. was going to be tough to beat there on this restart. And Frazier to the inside of Bill Ross Jr. trying to get a run here. Coming down the backstretch, good so far, and they are catching Dan West Jr. into turn 3.
To get the white flag, race is official. West Jr. looking to defend the lines. Frazier takes away second. 1 lap to go, 1.5 miles left from Charlotte.
Seth Frazier just barely caught up in front of Bill Ross Jr., who catches the apron and slides up the track. That opens the door for Thurston. Dan West Jr. trying to scoot away, but Seth Frazier with a good run down the backstretch. Looks like it's going to be down to the 55 and the 32 for the checkered.
Is there enough time? Frazier sends it deep. West Jr. nearly clips the apron. Frazier tries to dime in the corner. It's not enough. Dan West Jr. wins it at Charlotte. Frazier second, Thurston third. Ross Jr. and White round out the top 5.
Third win of the season for Dan West Jr. in the Cup Series, and he earned it tonight. What a performance by Dan West Jr. What a performance by everybody tonight.
And it was a lot of work to try and hold on to the win. Multiple different leaders tonight, multiple different strategies, but in the end, West Jr. is the man who conquered them all. Mind you, too, he had the fastest lap in the entire race.
Oh, the Demo Derby started a little bit early there, Justin. And like you mentioned, yes, late in the going there, Dan West Jr. did have the fastest lap of the race, 29 solid, matching his practice time. Some contact there with Stabnow saying that, hey, congratulations on the win from the pole. But now Dan West Jr. beginning to smoke him if he got him, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, and Devin West saying no thank you.
That's his son sending him off to the moon. Let's take a look at the unofficial race results with that, shall we? as Dan West Jr. comes away with victory number 3 in 2020 in the Northwest Racing Cup Series. Seth Frazier comes home in second. James Thurston comes home in third. Bill Ross Jr., one of his best finishes of the season, comes home in fourth. Chris White rounds out the top 5 where he started, with John Annenbacher in 6th. Dan Leathers, Sean Brightsman, Jeff Stabnell, and Stephen Paulison rounded out the top 10 tonight, Greg.
Final car on the lead lap is the number 45, Daryl Tidrick, finishing in 11th. Car is 1 lap down, the 9 of Corey Walters, and the number 11 of Frank Harris, who had a EOL penalty there on that last restart. They finished 1 lap down in 12th and 13th. Gary Nichols comes home 14th, with Brett Johnson rounding out the top 15. Kevin Smith, a good first run for him, finishing 16th, 5 laps down. BJ Tidrick up there in the mix at the end, but caught up in that late accident, finishes 17th. Bruce Weaver 18th after almost pulling off of a back-to-back strategy gain in the 18th position. Devin West 30 laps down in 19th. But Stephen O'Hare not finishing this one. He finishes 20th on the charts.
Ricky Boger in 21st spot. Brock Denny 22nd, 80 laps down. Carl Burke in 23rd. Roy Grande DNF'd in 24th. Adam Chisholm, James Vining rounded out the 26 entrants in tonight's edition of the Charlotte Oval 200 for the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Coverage of the Clan Wars post-race show is coming up after these quick messages. You're watching LSR TV, your home for sim racing. Welcome back, everyone, to Charlotte Motor Speedway for tonight's coverage of the Northwest Racing Cup Series. Justin Prince, Greg Brent, Wesley Outland with you, along with Charles Wood in the director's seat for tonight's coverage of the Clan Wars post-race show, the official communication partner of LSR TV. It was a heck of a show this evening, but Dan West Jr. comes away with the victory tonight. He joins us in the broadcast booth via the radio. 36 laps led, fastest lap of the race. Dan, how does it feel to be a winner tonight once more at Charlotte?
It feels good. I almost let that one get away from myself on a couple pit stops there, but it was fun. I mean, it was fun coming back up through there, and it was interesting, as you guys seen, getting around the outside of those guys. It was pretty tight.
Yeah, talk us through how difficult it was to try and get your way back up and forward and get yourself in position to win this race in the GWC.
It was pretty tough because you're trying to save your stuff, right? I mean, so you're driving, you're trying to drive the wheels off to get up there, so you're back in contention, but you're also trying to save your stuff. So I feel like the cautions kind of fell my way, a little bit of luck, and fortunately we were able to make some pit stops and get the car fixed. Because as you've seen there on that first pit yellow flag, I actually was hurt pretty bad to where I couldn't even hold pace.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of strategy with the fast repairers tonight, and a lot of attrition at some points. How was it to try and make sure you managed where you were on the track to make sure you avoided some of the incidents tonight that happened, especially in the late going?
I think the biggest thing is just try to look ahead, right? I mean, just look out in front of the truck as far as you could, and then just try to arc the car as much as you could and save that right front, and just be patient. I mean, there was a time to go, and there was a time just to kind of wait. I mean, there was a lot of racing.
Indeed. Now, Memorial Day weekend is next week, so there is an off week, but the next time this series hits the track is short track racing at Richmond. 125 miles, 167 laps currently scheduled. Your thoughts on Richmond?
Oh, I think it's going to be a blast. Short track racing is always fun. So we're looking forward to getting there and get some practice in. They'll give us some time. So it looks like it'll be a fun race.
Anyone you want to thank for being a part of your victory today?
LSR TV, Northwest Racing Series, Effective Web Solutions, Jeff Stabnow for giving me an awesome paint job. And I got to throw a shout out to Connor. If you ever watch the YouTube LSR TV channel on YouTube, he's always a big supporter of mine. So thank you for that.
Yeah, just taking a glance towards that direction. Connor is definitely losing his mind after the victory tonight. Congratulations on the W.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
That's Dan West Jr., your winner tonight of the Charlotte Oval 200 after throwing 137 official laps. Standing by with your second place finisher tonight, Seth Frazier, is Greg Rentz. Greg, where to you?
And Seth, it was quite the adventure for you, up and down all day, but comes down to you and Dan West Jr., and you get a good run at it. But hey, a second, not too shabby for you considering everything that happened today.
No, I'll take second. You know, it was a long night. Last few weeks or races, I've had some rough stretch. I'm just glad to finish my under green. And early on, I caught some damage, and I saved the fast repair. And it couldn't really play out right. I would end up losing too much track position, so I had to kind of chase that all night. But it was a fun night.
And Seth, we talked about that on the broadcast, how some drivers were electing to save the fast repair as opposed to using it right away. And at what point did you decide, okay, now I have to start beginning to think about using the fast repair compared to when you actually used it?
Well, after I got in a wreck and the engine was pumping out black smoke out the back, I figured I should probably use it.
Yeah, that's usually a pretty good telltale sign that you might be wanting to use it. But hey, it worked out for you there at the end. And all in all, it was a very impressive run. You got up front, you led some laps. And talk a little bit about that one call there right around the 2/3 mark where you and your teammates, Daryl Tidrick and BJ Tidrick, all three of you guys stayed out to run 1, 2, 3 there. The road course guys that tend to run a lot of road course in official racing up there at the front there for a little bit.
Well, I think the crew chief screwed up there. We probably all should have pit. We would have been better off. So that didn't really play out in our favor. But I thought a few more guys would stay out, and I thought we'd have a bunch of cautions possibly at the end. So if I was going to pit, I was going to take 2 tires. I probably should have there, but it worked out all right.
Hey, but it worked out for you, a second place here tonight, and getting set to head from Charlotte, North Carolina, a little bit north to Richmond, Virginia next week. You excited for Richmond?
Yeah, it'd be nice to do something different versus these big cookie cutter tracks. So I'll be excited to go short track racing for a week.
All right, so that's second place, and we know you got some guys you've been waiting a while to give a shout out to. So who you got?
Just Aunt Kathy out there for watching and cheering us all on. It's hard to find a better cheerleader than Aunt Kathy. Thank you guys for all putting this on, and congrats, Greg, on getting out of jail.
I knew that was coming. I need better friends. Seth Frazier coming home in second tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Congratulations as well, Greg, on that honor as well. But James Thurston came home in third position. Just his third start in this series this season. Each and every time, Wesley, he has improved his finishing position. It's his best run out of the 3 so far.
Yeah, no doubt about that. A podium finish for the driver of that number 2 truck of James Thurston. And James, you come so close in your car to winning. If this would have been about another 10 laps, do you think you would be the victor?
No, I didn't have anything for Dan or Seth. They were up front. I had a top 5 car, but the tires, with just being on 2 tires, I had nothing for Seth, who was on 4. So I'm happy with the 3rd place finish.
Now, you kind of were in the hunt of things, as you said, a top 5 race car. What was your thoughts of the transition of this race here tonight?
Actually, it was a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. I'm notorious for being brutal on that right front tire and running the pace that we were running at the beginning. I was expecting to fall off, and it really didn't. The car seemed to stay in touch, and then it was just a case of pit strategy and avoiding anything that was in front of me.
Well, you have a week off. off for the rest of this week as we acknowledge Memorial Day. You come back next week for Richmond. What will you and your crew do to get things ready to try to improve a third place finish? Is what Justin said. You've improved every race. There's only 2 positions to go up, second or victory.
Yeah, well, Richmond may not be that track, so I'll need to get a lot of laps practice. Short track and I don't get along too much, but we'll get some laps in and we'll be ready for it. Looking forward to it.
There we go. Third place for the driver. The number 2 entry here tonight for the Northwestern Cup Series is Charlotte. It's James Thurston in the number 2. And again, I think my announcer jinx worked on Ross and Stabnow. I'm sorry, guys. Justin, back to you.
That seems to be how it works in iRacing. It happens once or twice, or at least 5 times a race. But Greg, first things first, your final thoughts on what was an eventful race here tonight with multiple different leaders, in total 15 lead changes at the stripe.
Oh, it was a great race there, Justin. It has been an outstanding performance by all drivers. 15 lead changes, like you mentioned, all over the place here tonight. Great job by everybody there. And I also have a final thought that I think I may need to start paying attention to when private numbers call me and start telling me that something's going on with friends of mine, right, Seth?
Right.
Oh, that's pretty. Well, I kind of want to know the story about that, but that's another time. But an interesting thing, of course, to mention too, Wesley, you hit upon it with the Coca-Cola 600 and the Cup Series swell at Charlotte on Wednesday, as well as the Xfinity and Truck Series make it to the track. It's kind of a unique situation. And what are your thoughts on going to the railroad track once more with racing being back for NASCAR?
Hey, props to NASCAR yesterday. They practiced social distancing perfectly. Maybe a little bit more too embellished and blown out of proportion than what it should have been. I mean, I'm kind of understanding you got to wear the masks on pit road and all the media and the crew and everything, and got to have the boom mics and everything to not be so close to the drivers. But to have the masks on inside a building while you're doing your engineering, I think that was kind of a little blown out of proportion. But again, that's the opinion or the thoughts of that crew member. If he wanted to have that opinion of putting that mask on while being in the office, then so be it. But nonetheless, over 6.3 million people watched the Real Racing Heroes or the Real Heroes 400 at Darlington yesterday. The Xfinity Series race tomorrow, 200 laps at Darlington. It will be now at 6 o'clock Eastern instead of 8 o'clock because of the threat of weather. And then, of course, they run in the Toyota 500 on Wednesday night. And then we go to Charlotte. And, it's kind of abnormal, guys, because, like I said, this would be the weekend where we're coming from the All-Star race, and then we get ready for the Coke 600, and, we're not qualifying. We're not practicing. They're going right out on the track, and they're running. But this, I think once we get through this transition, maybe the second transition of the races that are coming up at Martinsville and Homestead and Atlanta and Bristol, I think once we can get into the summer months, I believe we will finally see fans in the stands. We will see more racing. It was obvious that they were definitely missed, and I'm just glad to see racing back. I'm glad to see sports back, and hopefully we got a lot of new racing fans, not only from those that are fans of this iRacing simulation that now love the real deal, but also the fans that we have lost in years past, or those that were new to the sport that we saw on Sunday. But a good show for sure. Looking forward to tomorrow and Wednesday, on to Charlotte on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And always enjoy working with you guys with LSR TV. Enjoy pit reporting. I mean, I love it. I haven't really done pit reporting for sim racing since back to my old ETV days. So it was really cool being able to pit report, and hopefully I've done a really good job getting some stories for you and grabbing interviews along the way too.
Yeah, I'm so happy to also have the experience to be able to work with you once again, Wesley. Thank you very much once again for being a part of tonight's coverage here for the Northwest Cup Series. But as mentioned, Memorial Day weekend means a week off for the series. Next time that we'll hit the track is about 11:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:10 p.m. Pacific Time on June the 1st when they go to Richmond Raceway. Be sure to tune in here on LSR TV, your home for sim racing. But it's time to say goodbye. For our producer, Charles Wooden, for Wesley Outland, for Greg Rentz, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night. We'll see you after Memorial Day.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSR TV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of 52 Media LLC and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. LSR TV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.